All right, it is 2:00 and this meeting will come to order. First item of business is roll call, and our trustee Blank will not be here today. Our director is on via Teams or Zoom, something electronic. And our legal counsel will not be here today. It sounded like the director is really think that he would be needed, and I didn't think he'd be needed, so we're saving the money on legal counsel. So then we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so whoops. Next we have public comment, and the first person, actually before that, I'd like to remind everyone that throughout the meeting, objects, behavior, noise should not disrupt the word. Anyway, objects, noise should not disrupt the board's work or the public's experience of the meeting. Speakers should state name and community and speak for no more than 3 minutes. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe a level of civility and decorum appropriate for a public meeting. No personal attacks or disruptions to audience members. So first up, we have Suzanne Kearney.
Ann Kearney, Post Falls, she, her. I am appalled that our governor just signed legislation that will harm minors by relocating books that are harmful to minors. The people who wrote harmful to minors law don't know anything. They may be experts in criminology and child psychology, but experts should only be cited when they support the right narrative. Besides, it's not harmful if it comes from the library. Everyone who supports this new law is a racist, misogynistic, anti-First Amendment book banner who probably voted for Trump. Think about it. Moving a book from one place to another is exactly the same thing as throwing it in a bonfire. And the fact that kids might not be able to read sex books without parental consent is a complete infringement of parental rights. Besides, the library already has minor cards, and only the older kids get the sex books because, of course, 12 to 17-year-olds are only sort of kind of minors, but not really. Why would these kids want to read some dusty old hag like Jane Austen when they can learn how to masturbate and have oral sex? This information is essential, and the earlier kids are exposed, the better, especially for groomers, minor attracted persons, and Planned Parenthood. I am a firm believer that kids should be entertained and politicized, not educated, so they become lifelong dependents and useful idiots for the governing elites. Speaking of which, I don't believe in God, but I still say, thank God this new hateful law doesn't ban other inspiring ideals. BLM can still promote that uplifting book about suicide and lots of stuff about critical theory and the occult and everything that makes society better. Dividing kids into oppressed groups and teaching them to channel demons and kill themselves is good for everyone. Anyway, since the library director told the press that she doesn't believe any CLN books meet this new law's definition of harmful to minors, it must be true. And that's a good thing because the kids will still have access to all the sex books. In fact, I suggest we broadcast some Ellen Hopkins audiobooks in the minor section so every kid can benefit from listening to a dad molest his young daughter. Just make sure they're always played as a whole in context because kids always read the sex parts in context. In closing, if the board updates the materials policy, please continue to slow roll, create drama, accuse, manipulate, get emotional, and try to give some good sound bites to the press to make those knuckle-dragging conservatives look bad. And please, keep the dirty books alive because book lives matter. Thank you.
Next, we have Mariana Cochran.
Marian Cochran, Rathdrum. Whether we're paid staff, unpaid, elected board members, or concerned citizens, we're all here today because we appreciate the impact libraries can have on our communities. So it was utterly fitting that during National Library Week, our governor signed into law the Children's School and Library Protection Act, a monumental step forward for kids in our libraries. Just so the record is crystal clear regarding an April 11th Coeur d'Alene Press article about this new law, unmentioned in the article is that CLN's revision of the policy in March 2023 to add tiered cards for minors came about only after over a year and a half of a vociferous and unrelenting public pressure campaign and multiple denials by the board. This is not being, quote, ahead of or in front of, unquote, issues, as Director Eccles asserts. And in a case of amazing coincidence, the previous board voted to approve these new minor cards one day before the election filing deadline for the 2 trustees running for re-election. So I guess that is being ahead of the election. But back to the kids. At the March 16th CLN board meeting, IT Director Mark Foster, under the direction of the interim director Lindsay, discussed that the existing juvenile and young adult materials would need to be considered for reclassification. However, here's a public records request submitted on March 24th, 2024, over 1 year later, asking for the number of items reclassed as a result. In response, Director Eccles stated that a whopping 5 books had been reclassed. In fact, those 5 books had been submitted by patrons as a request for reconsideration, not initiated by CLN. A reference to the new teen section was included with no citation of quantities of books reclassed, so the actual number is still a mystery. Additionally, the response to the records request was received 12 working days after the request was submitted, not within 10 days as required by Idaho Code 74-103. Vacations by the custodian are irrelevant because according to section 74-119, quote, public agencies shall provide an alternate custodian for contingencies, unquote. Bottom line, irrespective of ignored emails or inadequate replies, per the new Children's School and Library Protection Act, as of July 1st, 2024, CLN will be statutorily mandated to reassess their collection for minors. Parents, patrons, and concerned citizens will continue to be vigilant to ensure this new law is implemented. In closing, being ahead of National Library Week in an April 5th, 2024 email to this board and director, Clean Books for Kids offered a $500 donation to CLN toward the collection for minors. We were happy to kick off the celebration of a milestone week.
Next, we have Michelle Lippert.
Hi, my name is Michelle Lippert, Post Falls, Idaho. I'm tired. I'm tired of coming to these meetings. You seem to have so many. I missed the last one 2 weeks ago because my husband and I were in Seattle. We had gone there to hear Princeton professor and author Matthew Desmond's presentation on his new book, Poverty by America. Note here for trustees Addison, Hanley, and Plass. Keep it out of the CLN. It doesn't match your narratives. I'm tired because when I leave here today, I will head over to NIC. There I will witness another board majority attempt to destroy another treasured institution. I'm tired of hearing trustees disparage patrons. Trustee Banducci of NIC called a staff member idiotic the other
Can
day.
we keep it to the library, please?
Trustee Plass referred to tax-paying constituents as the opposition and sought to prevent us from hearing the attorney's opinion. I'm tired because the governor signed what he called the stinking library bill. I'm tired because the passage of that bill will speed up attempts to erase the LGBTQ community and communities of color. I'm tired because when I read books like Burning the Books, A History of Deliberate Destruction of Knowledge by Richard Ovenden, another book you probably don't want on your shelves, I run across a quote from Joseph Goebbels, celebrating the destruction of books. Goebbels said, "No to decadence and moral corruption, yes to decency and morality in the family and the state. The future man must not just be a man of books, but a man of character. It is to this end that we will educate you. You will do well to commit to the flames the evil spirit of the past. This is a strong and great and symbolic deed. I'm tired because Gogol seems to capture the current mood in Idaho. I'm tired for all these reasons, but I'm going to keep showing up.
Okay, next we have Heather Greenman.
It's been a while since I've been here. Okay, I always start a timer just so I can keep track. I'm sorry, so let me do that real quick. So, I wanted to, first say thank you for your service as always. And I'll see Katie here or Alexa. I've always felt Thanksgiving is one of the most honoring and virtuous days for all Americans. From both my American and Native American roots, it has been especially important. A short background on me, my grandmother was Indian, spoke Nahuatl, Spanish, and English. Most of the Indian in my blood comes from the Choco and Petahamuda tribes. I was raised with a profound respect and knowledge of many Native American beliefs, traditions, and have many giftings that are common amongst Natives. We hear too much of the bad history regarding Natives and this country, and not enough of the good history. The Thanksgiving we have always traditionally celebrated in this country is the one at Plymouth with the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag Indians. The Pilgrims demonstrated a blueprint of God's peace, love, and respect to fellow man, including the natives. That spread to many other colonies that followed suit. Some of the colonies that followed those footprints were the Massachusetts Bay, Plymouth, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and onward. Many Indians actually gave their lives to Christ by witnessing the Indians and their good works and love and how they, their creator actually divinely answered their petitions. Their understanding of the Bible and relationship with Christ caused them to treat the natives with respect. An example is even though the King of England told them that they could have land, he actually gave it to them, they still bought land from the Indians and they made deals with them that the Indians could agree on. Squanto himself actually died with Governor William Bradford by his side, actually asking Governor Bradford, saying he desired him to pray for him so that he could go to the God of the Englishmen. It's actually in this book, which is in the library. It's an excellent book, The American Story. I suggest people read it. They had the longest standing peace treaty with Native Americans known in this country. The ending of that peace treaty actually was not the Pilgrims, but it was the grandson of Chief Massasoit Metacom, and that was partly due to the fact that many natives had freely converted to Christianity. The Pilgrims had good works, demonstrated sharing the love of Christ, and that actually spread across our country. There's actually a map in this book that I would encourage anybody to check out from the library and look at. You can actually see the north and the south. And that's actually the north is the Pilgrims' ideologies that spread in our country. And there's another thing we know about the north and the south, freedom and slavery. So I want to just tell the board, thank you for giving employees the opportunity to take an extra day to celebrate it if they choose, while still keeping Martin Luther King Day and honoring the freedoms that they worked hard to obtain.
Next we have Pat Rappy.
Pat Rappy, Post Falls. This is a quote. The inherent modern day challenge for public libraries is providing open access to a collection of materials and the internet while protecting minors from harm. Promoting the welfare of children is everyone's responsibility. Libraries are an essential public good and are fundamental institutions in democratic societies. Public libraries in the past 20 years have pivoted from being repositories of books and materials to havens of privacy and ensuring the community has free and open access to personal inquiry. The right to think is the beginning of freedom, and speech is the beginning of thought. The ability to access information has a critical impact on a community's educational success, economic development, provision for an informed electorate, and overall quality of life. Community Library Network established in 2023 a new teen collection geared toward 13 to 15-year-olds. Collections for minors within the Community Library Network include a children's collection geared towards 0 to 12-year-olds, a teen collection geared toward 13 to 15-year-olds, and a young adult collection geared toward 16 and 17-year-olds. Community Library Network recognizes children have freedom of speech codified in the First Amendment, but are limited in some ways by capacity, which is often age dependent. Protecting children aged 0 to 12 years from explicit and potentially developmentally damaging sexual content is a serious consideration for the entire community, library board, and staff. For that reason, non-sexual nudity may only be included in the children's collection, which is geared for ages 0 to 12, if it is mild and the material was specifically written and geared toward a very young audience. No graphic, visual, or written depiction of sex is included in this collection. Locating a book or materials in the teen or young adult collections limits the ability of very young readers under 12 years of age from borrowing materials if their parent or legal guardian has chosen one of CLN's children's or teen restricted library card access for them. It can be difficult to navigate today's political landscape and rhetoric regarding libraries. So I stake my name, reputation, and 30-plus year career as a librarian in offering reassurance no materials owned by Community Library Network are harmful to minors. Libraries are an essential public good. That was a quote from Alexa Eccles, the Community Library Network's director, in her April newsletter.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our public comment. Second, please. All right, next we have the consent agenda, and I had seen there were several corrections that I saw that needed to be made. See, on the March 21st, 2024, the second bullet point from the bottom, it says Mara Sykes Carmelis, and I believe it's Signs, S-I-N-E-S.
Which page?
Oh, sorry, on the first page, March 21st.
I believe it says something.
S-I-N-E-S, is that everyone else's understanding? How's that spelled?
I have no idea.
I think I've seen it spelled that way before, so. And then on page 5 of the same March 21st, a little bit before halfway through the page, it's crossed out. It says for about 10 minutes. I'm guessing that was meant to take out.
Thank you.
Do you have other corrections that you made? No. Actually, I did have something else, sorry. So included with the minutes were 2 emails, one dated 3/17 and the other one dated 3/18. One trustee had requested that those be included with the emails, but one trustee does not have authority to direct what happens, and there was no consensus on that. So do we have a majority consensus to remove them, even though they shouldn't have been included in the first place? Trustee Hanley?
I found it highly irregular. I didn't know why they were in there, and I did know that one trustee that asked for it, so no, I don't see a need for that to be in the minutes. It's not part of the meeting.
Trustee Robinson, have any comment on that?
I don't know what the rules are on this, so, or why it was asked for this to be with the minutes. So I really have no opinion on it.
Okay, Trustee Fox?
No, I don't believe they belong in the minutes, so I don't want them there.
Okay, so we have consensus of 3, that they don't belong with the minutes. There was one other correction that I found in the March 6th minutes. Okay, so the March 6th minutes on page 2. Second paragraph from the bottom, the last sentence, it says threatened police intervention. That's extremely subjective and prejudicial. I think perhaps because minutes are supposed to be neutral. So, and it's not like someone threatened the audience, you better do what I say, or we're gonna call the police. It was just mentioned that, police would come if something didn't happen. So maybe mentioned would be more neutral and accurate.
I can't find it.
Is that under break, the 5-minute break?
Is it the last?
Yeah, it's the sentence right above break 5 minutes.
Oh, right above.
Oh,
Oh,
I don't see. That's really short.
the handling. Oh, you're.
That was the second.
Yeah,
page
that's right.
of that sheet, right?
Oh, my right one.
No, I see it, that's where it says Hanley,
Which do?
March
Oh, here.
6th.
Hanley.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the very last sentence.
Yeah, last sentence threatened police
Oh.
intervention if you didn't comply.
No. I don't have a report. I would say suggested or, but I think I called for a recess if I remember correctly.
Okay, so suggested or mentioned or something more neutral.
What would
Yeah.
you like exactly to be changed?
Just replace the word threatened with suggested. That sound good?
I wasn't at that meeting, so. I couldn't.
Recommended, I think, is what you did.
I can't recall, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't recall
Something-
exactly, but I remember saying I suggested the possibility of a recess being called and law enforcement be notified. That's just my recollection. I didn't listen to the minutes or the recording.
So trustee Foster, are you fine with suggested?
Yes.
Okay, so we have consensus on changing the word threatened to suggested. Are there other corrections? Yes.
So I'm a little confused about the amended March 21st, and it was also is there another amended?
I think that indicates that the agenda was amended before we started.
Yeah.
It's a little confusing. We didn't used to do that. I'm not fond of it.
And what about February 15th? That was one that we were actually talking about. Is that?
That's farther into the agenda.
Yeah, that's
not part of the consent.
no, consent agenda is March 21st, March 6th, CIN, February 21st, and CIN financial statements for February 2024.
And March 28th.
Oh, and March.
It's along with the March
Yeah.
6th line, yeah.
okay. Yeah. Trustee Henley?
I just wanted to ask, do we have connectivity with people on the outside? Did we ever confirm this? Is the director on and Katie, trustee? Okay. I suppose, I don't see them up there, so I was just curious if we're proceeding and they're not on there. They're here.
Alexa is up there and Janelle is up there, and that's who's present.
Okay.
Virtually.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't see Janelle. Hi, Janelle.
I saw her. I didn't see Alexa.
It's the AE in the middle. So her
Oh.
face isn't up.
Oh, okay. I didn't know she was 8E. Okay. I guess it is.
I'll say hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I move that we accept the consent agenda.
As amended.
As amended.
Okay, it has been moved to accept the consent agenda as amended. If there is no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it is unanimous. The consent agenda is accepted. So then we are moving on to the Community Library Network, March 2024 financial statements.
CIM.
CL,
Nope, CLN.
CIN.
CIN was part of the
Oh,
consent
oh,
agenda.
okay, it's got it. Sorry.
So we're on to item number 6. Are there any questions, comments?
Oh, I think I did.
Trustee Clark?
Let me just clarifying, 69 insurance, the second half of ICRIM, paid by April 1st. Will that move it to 100%? Or what is left to be paid to ICRIM? And I don't know if that's gonna take us over 100%.
I'm sorry, what line number?
69. So
I can answer that if the chair would like.
Yes, please, Director.
Yes, we will be over in the insurance category. We had budgeted the amount that ICRIMP had told us, but if you will recall, we paid Great American, which was in that about $8,000 area. And so we will be over in that line item by that amount. And I would also, while I'm here, just point out that line 70 was broken out following the board's request. So now there's a line item for legal services and a line item for professional services.
Okay, thank you.
So how much will the second insurance payment be, do you know, or close?
It's half, I think it was like 53,000 roughly for ICRIMP, and they break it into two pieces. So I'm just gonna say 27,000.
Trustee Henley?
Yeah, I'm just a little interested in line item 43, the outreach vehicles. I do see in the details on the descriptive page that the bookmobile was repaired. I do recall that the director had once said that we were not going to repair or were likely not to repair what's the Explorer bus called?
Everybody?
Discovery bus and the bookmobile. I do know we had a problem with 2 different facilities with flooding. Are we still putting the Discovery bus back online as well as the bookmobile? And is that the full expense for the bookmobile at this point? Is it finished being repaired?
Director?
We have no immediate plans to bring back the Discovery bus. It cannot generally be operated in the wintertime because of the tires and the heater and all of that aspect, but we currently have no plans to bring that vehicle back into commission. We are going to be talking about our vehicles as part of the budget discussion. The bookmobile is being used temporarily at Athol, and it has been repaired to our knowledge. It is running. So.
I can.
Trustee Fox?
I guess on line item 34, telecom, I know we have a budget coming up. My understanding from reading this is a big part of this is Fat Beam's charges for fiber lines to each library at Post Falls. And I brought this up during the budget last year, but we could save a significant amount if we did VPN instead of leasing individual fiber lines. And I don't know, maybe we have a long-term contract, we can't get out of it, but maybe it's a request for later, but I think someone should be getting quotes and finding out about setting up VPN and just using public internet to the libraries. And we should do that before the budget. Get into the middle of the budget, we should have that as an alternate. So maybe that's a separate topic to ask for that, or somebody should be able to go get quotes from IT companies to set up VPN, and just asking them to do that for telecom.
Yeah, that might be a good suggestion. Director, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a much larger topic. There's a lot more behind the scenes that the trustee isn't aware of related to E-rate and federal grants that support the funding of that. I'm happy to put together some information at an upcoming meeting that kind of talks about internet access and what we pay for, why we pay for it, what's reimbursed, and do a little bit more of a dive into E-rate for the board.
Okay, Trustee Robinson?
Since there does seem to be a trustee that knows quite a bit about this, it may not know, like what the director was just talking about, because I don't know anything about it. Maybe it is something for like at the end of the meeting, that a trustee could request to have put on an agenda that we could actually discuss this, because I know trustees brought this up before, and I certainly don't know enough about VPNs or whatever wires you're talking about. So maybe it is something to look into for, for everybody to discuss with the trustees and the staff. There might be something better out there and we don't know. So maybe at the end of the meeting, that can be brought up for an action or an agenda item.
Okay, so that ends our time. So I would
I move that we accept, what are we accepting? The Community Library Network, March 2024 financial statements.
okay, it has been moved to accept the Community Library Network March 2024 financial statements. There's no further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous and the financial statements are accepted. Next, we have discussion of Community Library Network March 2024 carry forward balance analysis, which I don't believe was in our packets. It was on our table packets.
Right.
Okay. So if the director would like to speak to that.
I don't see any major change in this, but we're continuing to provide it as the board's request. I don't know if there are any questions. I don't have anything to particularly draw attention to.
Trustee Henley?
So it appears at the bottom, we're slightly over in the minimal balance we're hoping to carry. Are we subtracting from that the resolution to pay for the Hayden roof? I think that was $60,000 or so. Is that already subtracted from this, or is that coming out of this same pot of money? I thought that was coming out of it for carrying forward balance, and it would bring us almost down to the exact pretty darn close. It's anything out.
Okay, so director, that's already been taken out?
If you look about halfway, so there's the Harrison project's been taken out. I don't see, I was just looking at parking lot ceiling. I do not see that listed there. I would have to talk to specifically Janelle about whether or not, I know today we're going to be moving car funds. So I don't know if Lindsay knows the answer to that. I see Janelle's on as well. I don't know if she heard that question.
Janelle, if you'd like to speak up, you have the floor.
The money for the Hayden roof will be coming out of the CARF account. The carry forward worksheet you have is just based on this year's current revenues and expenditures. The carry forward or the monies for the Hayden roof had been set aside in the CARF account.
Trustee Claus?
So on that, same worksheet, the bottom line, I think that Trustee Hanley is referring to available to assign expenditures or emergency 1.09 million. I guess I don't care for that description. It's not really free money available. And it's, I guess I don't know where it's accounted for in the budget, but we didn't get an extra $1 million in from taxpayers already. So I'd like that worked and clarified where that money came from.
Director, did you have comments on that, or Janelle?
I'm not sure I understood the question. Carry forward or the fund balance, as the auditor has talked about. I mean, what I might do if the trustee would allow, we are going to have our annual audit presentation, and maybe hearing that directly from the auditor rather than from me would be more pacifying or better explaining of it. But just generally speaking, funds that are not expended can be carried over from year to year for emergencies and unplanned events. And so what we're saying is we have $1 million. And again, we've talked about how we have to have operations until we get our next payment from property taxes. And so this is essentially the fund that helps us float between our cash payments of property taxes. And so I know we've talked a lot about this, but I think having the auditor, since that's going to be happening in the next month or two, would be the best way to answer your question.
Sure.
Trustee Klaus?
No, I understand exactly what the auditor is going to say about having 2 months. I suggesting there's something that isn't accurate about calculations, because we weren't that far off on the budget. I thought we were showing that we were behind, and somehow or another we got an extra $1 million. So this middle line, 2.8082 million. Either there's some oversight is what I'm suggesting. We can't possibly have an extra $1 million when, you know, the sky has been falling and we've been falling behind on everything. So I'd like to know, I can go through it myself, but I'd like to know where that came from.
Trustee Hanley?
I don't know the answer. I'm gonna take a small guess that this is an small accruing constantly of overages that built up a safety balance of sorts for unexpected expenditures somewhere, or just in case. And I'm just curious as well, did the URD money go into this particular pot here as well? I can't remember where that got. Was that was a significant amount of money?
Well, sure.
Trustee Klaus?
It's more like, has money been paid from insurance that hasn't been paid out? Is there money that's come in for anything that, you know, I haven't really, I don't know how we got that high of a budget or a balance right now if we've been having our regular expenses. But there's a big unknown to me about what's been paid by insurance, or if anything's been paid by insurance, what's been paid out. So I'd like this clarified for the next meeting.
Okay, so was the auditor going to be here? Was that next month? Striker?
I sent out an email and now I can't remember. Is it May, Lindsay? I think it was May that we had arranged.
I believe it's May, yes.
I believe it's May.
Okay, so we should schedule more time for that next month. Okay, so if there's no further comments or questions, our time is up for that section. We will go on to circulation statistics. And it looked like many of the statistics were upwards trending, and the ones that are downward trending, I would imagine are due to the post falls and Apple closures. Any questions? Okay, then, there's no discussion, no questions. Trustee Fox?
I had asked before, and I don't know if we're waiting for the next year, but I would like a breakdown of card holders. We've got current card holders. I guess we got new patrons by card type, but I'd like to know how many, not just new this month of each of those card types, how many each type of card holder there is. For that's on the books with not just new ones for the month.
Trustee Robinson?
So to be clear, if somebody's asking for the present amount of card holders of each type, which would be all access, minor and teen. Because all access is adults and minors, but that can be broken down as well. But a trustee is looking for the amount of card holders in the entire CLN. I'm trying to clarify it because if a trustee wants that information, I think that the staff needs to know exactly what he's asking for.
Trustee Fox?
Yes, it's simply under new patrons by card type. There's 4 card types, but that's only for this last month. Just use those same 4 card types under current card holders. So just give us the total so I don't have to keep adding it up each month.
Yeah, consensus on that?
I'd like to make sure I understand as well. So you just want the number of card holders for each of those different categories and not how many people are added or deleted each month, just the totals?
No.
Because I agree, I'd like to make sure I understand what we want to agree
Leave
to.
the new patrons the way it is, but just add a breakdown under current card holders showing those same 4, what the totals are.
Oh.
Because all I can do now is each month go back and make my own spreadsheet and add these up to see what I think the total might be.
Trustee Robinson?
Because I do see there's new patrons for the month, correct? Not for what's existing. There's new patrons and then new patrons by card type. There's 2 different categories. Is there already, and I would ask this to staff, is there already a number, already a category somewhere where we could just look to see how many card holders there are? And if not, is it, I don't know, it's just, if you have to add it every month, that's not that big of a deal. But if it could be added to this paper, I suppose that'd be fine too. Is there a year to date on new patron?
Trustee Fox?
I'm not looking for new patrons. I'm looking for current card holders. I'd just like to know by card type, how many there are. So new patrons is covered by card types, and they're not breaking it down by year to date and so forth. I'd just like to know total current card holders of each type. I think that's pretty clear.
Well, when did that go into effect? Has it been a year? So there wouldn't be any old statistics
No, I
on
haven't.
the newer cards.
Well, this is only for this month. This month. March.
Okay, I guess it would be good to see it on the same sheet. Trustee Robinson?
Yeah, I believe what the chair was saying is that breaking it down by card type would be difficult because it's only been in existence since January, basically. Is there a place on the website or in our paperwork, staff, that shows how many cards are presently utilized at the CLN?
Assistant Director?
The number at the very end of the column under current cardholders, the 45,843, that's how many cardholders we currently have at this moment in time when these stats are grabbed. And I think what the trustee is asking for is underneath there to then further break out those 4 card types, which would be broken out by library location and then total. Is that correct?
Okay, so we've got 2 there for putting that on there, and you said you were good either
That's
way.
Yeah.
Trustee Henry?
That's like,
Okay, so it sounds like we have consensus to add those same 4 breakout signature current card holders. And if there are no further questions or comments, we are over time for that. And we will move on to the next thing, which is the director's report. I just want to say that I appreciate the time that is put into keeping us informed through the director's report and through the board reports as well. Take it away, Director.
And would you like me, with your permission, to talk about post falls and Athol? I did, in my packet, I did do 2 pages for you guys in there together. I can wait on the second page, it's just up to you. I did want to highlight just a few items that have been done. The Hayden re-roofing was done very quickly and the work progressed without incident. And I love the phrase on time and within budget, so yay. That was outstanding. The Harrison project, as you recall from last summer, there's water on the property, a significant amount of water. And so the architect is reviewing with the engineers what the scope of the work would be. And I contacted Mr. Boyles about our Harrison lease. Our Harrison lease expires in November of 2025. It's a very short lease and it does not speak at all to our rights or authority or any kind of thing like that. And so I am getting some clarification from him before we move forward, but we're gathering information. The work still needs to be done. And so I'll bring back more information when I have it. We are beginning pulling together information for the budget. I mentioned our outreach vehicles. That's very much a topic for us that we're putting together some quotes on, but also we're talking about the staff and staff costs. So we've contacted McGrath Human Resources Group and we'll be meeting with them shortly to talk about staff increases or cost of living and that information to bring to the board. I did include at the board's request a printed copy of all of the job descriptions that are currently in use. And so that was in your table packet. There are 24. And then budget meetings. I assume that you will probably talk about it at the end of the meeting. So it's in the end of this packet, but I did put together a proposed schedule for meetings. And I will need to know specifically today when our budget hearing will be. That is due to both Kootenai and Shoshone County by April 30th. And so those were the pressing items. Did you want me to talk a little bit about Post Falls and Athol, or do you want me to wait until later?
farther down on the,
I'm good now or later, whatever you guys want.
because it's, you know, yeah,
Go ahead.
it is on line 19 for the agenda, but I have no objection to covering it now.
Okay, I have no objection. You've covering Athol and Post Falls update.
I don't have objection, but I did have a question about the library, monthly report, if that's part of this. Director, to have questions, we never get a chance to ask.
It used to be, that you can ask. But
Okay, so on the, monthly April 18th monthly report for March. I was, the very first page, the bottom of it, they're referring to it with strategic plan, but they're having training.
point of order. The trustee will state her point of order.
This is not part of the agenda. I have tried to bring up this report in the past and I've been shut down
Okay, well,
like twice. And I've asked for it to go back on the agenda so we could actually talk about it. So I don't think it's fair that another trustee gets to bring it up right now. And it is not part of the director's report.
Okay, it used to be, but the point is well taken, so.
It did not used to be part of the director's report. It used to be
Well, we
part of
had-
the consent agenda. Consent agenda.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look.
We took it
But
off
either
of
way,
that
your
so it
point of
could be on.
order Is well taken.
We
so-
took it off of the consent agenda so that could go on to the website.
Okay, so I guess bring it up at the end for future discussion. All right, so then,
Can I add one?
trustee Hannah?
No, I think for future though, if we have questions about the director's report, we ought to have that fitted in to that portion of the agenda, because the whole discussion is going to be lost. If we bring it up a month later, ask a question about something that was presented at this meeting, so I'm fine with it. This meeting, I don't want to offend anybody, it's not treated the same way, but I think that if we're going to have questions and discussions about a director's report, that ought to come up as part of the director's report in that same time frame that's allotted for that. That's my opinion.
We can, yeah, we'll discuss that and tackle that out later. Trustee Robinson?
I was just gonna iterate that it's not part of the director's report, what he is referring to.
Okay, well, we
This
can
is
discuss that later.
Manager's reports.
The point was well taken, so he's not gonna proceed with that. So, since there was no objection, the director can go ahead and just, update us on the Post Falls and Apple.
Great, thank you. So I'm very pleased to announce that on Wednesday, we started offering service again at both locations. A little bit modified service, but still the same great service of one-on-one help, internet, Wi-Fi, browsing or being able to look for new books, hold pickup and more. I mentioned earlier the library's bookmobile has been parked in the Athos parking lot, and then we were able to open the lobby and meeting room at Post Falls to provide those services. I consider it a significant step forward with, providing the community access again to our facilities. Just mentioning that we have officially signed contracts with Campus Construction. And so we'll be moving forward with construction soon. I know there was a question about the finances, and I'm happy to next month include a little bit more of a breakdown. I will just mention that ICRIMP has sent the library $75,000 to be the initial payment for Compass Construction for both projects. And we received the funds, but we have not written a check to the company and paid them yet. Other bills so far have been paid largely by ICRIMP directly. So some of the initial electrical work and plumbing work and the costs that we may have paid for like boxes or something up front, they've reimbursed. And so we're moving forward, but I'm happy to talk more about the budget next month. But so far, not much has come for the construction aspect, just $75,000. The total estimate for the construction repair is 197-ish for Athol and 504 for Post Falls. And then we have some limited service hours, but Post Falls is back to being available 7 days a week. And then Athol is available Tuesday through Saturday. So that was all I had in terms of project update.
Trustee Fox?
So Director, I wanted to commend you for opening up the two libraries. That's exactly what I was asking to have happen. So I thank you for working that out for the community. It sounds like the what's the word? Not the, anyway, the construction hasn't started, but has the tear out, removal of sheetrock, removal of carpets, all of that, is that part finished? Because I thought you didn't want to start until the tear out was finished.
That's a great question. Absolutely perfect question. We were having some gap between when staff were done packing and when the construction could begin. And so we moved forward with making the facility available. We had the staff, we had the building, we could do that. I don't really know what is behind the wall, so to speak. And so we may need to close for a day or half a day or do something like that and work with the contractor. But I think it's, just on Wednesday, there were people using the internet computers, there were people there. So there was clearly a huge community need. And so not delaying it is I believe the right decision. And I will talk next month also about how, because we did utilize staff and we received so many donations, I believe we've essentially saved taxpayers $300,000. So I'll talk more about that as well. There's a lot, even though this has been a lot of challenge and sort of the face of adversity, we've had some really amazing staff response, community response, and been able to do some creative stuff to make it bearable. And so I'm really happy that we're able to be open. The internet, the Wi-Fi, printing, all of that is overwhelmingly needed. So,
Trustee Henley?
I'd just like to say I as well am thrilled to see that the taxpayers are getting limited use of the two facilities that were affected by the flooding, and that I guess the library staff followed the suggestions by Trustees Plus and Hanley back in February, making that suggestion that we do that. Maybe that was premature at the time, but thank you for carrying that out. I have two questions on here. Are there I'll call it mitigation measures being taken into the reconstruction for the two facilities so that we don't have the same freeze up possibilities in the future? We did not hit record temperatures this past winter. They were unusual, yes, but they were not a record. And so I would like to know what kind of mitigation efforts we're making in the course of restoration so that we don't go through this again. And if there's any possibility of other sites having the same problem, I think that should be taken into consideration during the budget process. So that's my one question. And I had one other thing here. Sorry. That's all for the moment. I forgot my other question.
Director, would you like to address that?
Yeah. So we had tentatively on the agenda to talk about the ICRIMP decision about our claim categorization and limits. And so I don't know that it would be good for me to comment on that at this juncture until we have an opportunity to talk with legal or for the board to discuss that other issue. If that makes sense.
I have a question.
Yes, that makes sense. Actually, and I also wanted to thank the director and staff for managing everything as smoothly as possible, and also thank the community for coming together and helping out. Trustee Hammond?
Yes, remember my other question. According to your report here, it looks like we're going to be spending a little over $500,000 for the Post Falls facility restoration. And yet I believe in a news release and maybe also in an email to the board here, I can't remember, it looked as if we were going to have difficulty funding replacing materials that were lost. And I'm not quite sure I understand how we may have still $500,000 left and be short money to replace materials. I just didn't follow that. That's my question. It looks to me like it would appear, more than enough money left to replace materials. So I'm unclear on that.
Would staff like to address that?
Sure. And I kind of mentioned this too, that I'm happy to bring more financial information next meeting. Our claim does not have yet a determination of the 7,000 items and the replacement cost. I know that the latest on that portion is that we received a quote with our discounts of the 7,100 items. And Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say about 725 items were still available and in print. And so out of 7,100 items, only 700 of them are available for us to purchase. Same titles, same condition, same qualities, if you will, hardback, that kind of aspect. And so we are still putting together a proposal for ICRIMP to approve what the value of that loss is. And so with the cost of processing the materials, which I'm going to say is in the ballpark of $5 to $10 per item, which would be typically covered by the claim. You multiply that by 7,000. You multiply each cost of every book. So there's still not been a determination for the value of the collection that we lost. And I will say that for Athol, there were only, I think, about 35 items. And so I have put that together for a replacement cost, and that was approved by ICRIMP. And so, like I said, I'll bring more information, but I don't have specific information about the collection. But I think important to keep in mind was that budget presentation that I had before, the cost of the moving, the cost of the storage, the immediate removal of water, all of those costs are included, as well as the $500,000 for repairs, as well as, I'm going to say, over $300,000 for books. There's $20,000 loss of materials, puzzles, and children's props, storytime rugs, things like that. So if you go back to that other budget item, I'll bring an updated version. It is still not with any certainty that we will not have some loss that is uncovered.
I have one question.
Dr. Stanley?
I have one last follow-up. So if we had, in round numbers, $500,000 left unspent to restore the facility, and we lost 7,100 pieces of material, each thing being replaced would have to cost $70 each. My guess is each piece of material can cost probably half that, if less. So it just seems like we have a very generous amount of money left to replace material. That's all I'm saying. So I'll wait until we have more details in the future. But it appears that, again, given the 7,100 line items that were lost and the amount of money left for the insurance claim, it appears to be a very generous amount to replace materials.
I would not characterize it that way, but I don't have that information. Like I said, we're only able to replace 700 items. And so are we going to be covered for the replacement cost? You know, books on CD, which was almost 100% collection loss, are typically in the neighborhood of $75 to $125 per item. So not all items were books. Some of the items were MP3 players. Large types books typically are $45 per book. So again, there's a lot of information. It's a lot of data, and I'm working with staff and with ICRIMP to put together a proposal that they can approve. And once I have that, then we can plug that into the budget and have a better idea. But I would say I don't think it's out of the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Director, do you have anything else you want to share with us, or?
Nope.
No?
Was there a response to the mitigation? That's coming up, okay. Anyone?
All right, well then, sounds like we are finished with that section, and we will go to the board resolution to transfer funds from CARF to pay invoice for Hayden Roof. Director, I'm guessing that you would have some comments on that?
You know, you guys have already essentially been talking about this for a while, and the project is done. We do not have a final invoice from the contractor, but we're expecting it shortly. And so what we're asking for is just to transfer the funds in the amount of $210,868. That was what their quote was, and that is what the board has talked about.
there any questions, comments? Trustee Allen?
Just a short question. Procedurally, is this how we normally transfer money over into a resolution? Just I'm not familiar with procedurally how it's typically done. Is this the normal way of doing it?
Trustee Robinson?
Well, I was going to ask a similar-ish question. I don't recall it ever being this way, and I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. Maybe this is more, especially for like paperwork wise, maybe a resolution is a good way to do it, but I don't recall. Do you, Chair?
I don't know.
No, that's why I was glad that you raised your
Yeah.
hand. Yes, Trustee Claus.
I think we did this for what was it, the solar? No, it was for the lighting. We did this so that we could get the funds in there for the lighting project. Isn't that right, Director?
Well, and that's a good question. So my understanding is that essentially legally, there is no difference between the board making a motion and approving it, and it's documented in our minutes. The advantage of a resolution is that it can be a standalone document. So if we need to send it to anybody, then they have a copy of a signed resolution. And so we typically narrowly focus it to financial matters as kind of a best practice. But the board, if they prefer, they can always make a motion and then approve that, and it will be recorded in the minutes, and there's not much difference. However, like I said, generally for financial matters, this is what we do. And I don't know if Janelle wants to add anything, or Lindsay, but that's my practice, is to keep it clear and make a clear resolution. So there's no question that the full board understood there was a movement of money.
Unless Janelle.
I'd like to hear Janelle, that'd be great.
Yeah, and Janelle, if you have something to say,
I use the resolution to take to the bank that has the CARF funds, showing them that the board has made the authorization for funds to leave their bank. And that is part of my bank reconciliation records in my financial packet.
okay, yeah, I'm probably for it. Trustee Hammond?
One more little question. So if we don't have an invoice yet, and yet this is a rather exact amount, other than coins, how do we know, are we gonna need another resolution to move another $50 one way or the other when it's done? I'm just curious, is this number fairly solid so we don't have to go back and hit it again next month?
That is a good question. We have not received any change orders. We have not received any, which essentially means we have not agreed to pay any more than the quote amount. And so we are not expecting any different number than this. It could be less, but not likely to be. But this is what we're expecting the invoice to be. Part of this is that this contractor has not received any payment. A lot of times with roofing, they'll ask for 25% upfront so they can purchase their materials. This contractor has not done that. And so in this way, I don't want to wait another month for the next board meeting. I'd rather make sure that when we get the invoice, we can make a timely payment to the small business.
Sounds good. Yeah, I would accept a motion. Okay, Trustee Claus?
Where does the money get transferred to? So the CARF fund is one bank account, but where are we transferring it?
Probably
I'll let Janelle answer that since she already started talking about her process.
goes into the.
It'll transfer out of the bank that holds the CARF funds to the bank that has our operational funds so that we can write the check.
Okay, thank you. All right, I would accept the motion.
I move that we approve resolution CLN regarding the transfer of funds for the Hayden roofing project dated 4/18/24. I could have done it. It's probably easier.
If you just read it off there, then I don't have to write it down real fast.
I move that we approve resolution CLN 4/18/2024-1 transfer reserve funds for fiscal year 2023-2024 Hayden Library roofing project.
Okay, it has been moved to approve resolution CLN 4/18/2024-1, transfer reserve funds for fiscal year 2023-2024 Hayden Library roofing project. If there's further discussion, Trustee Fox?
I'd like to make an amendment. Just add, basically, I'd like to say where the funds get transferred. So maybe it would be,
I know what it's called.
in item 1, transfer of the funds that amount
To the ICS?
to, well, not ice, to the operation fund, or to the operation account. Would that be correct? To the operations account?
I think that's assumed. If you amend it, then they have to reprint it and then we'll have to come back and sign it at a later time rather than signing it today.
I mean, it does say on here that it's going to the general operations
Okay.
thing, the second year.
Oh,
Okay, so,
I withdraw my amendment.
okay, amendment has been withdrawn. If there's no further discussion, it has been moved to approve resolution CLN 4/18/2024-1, transfer reserved funds for fiscal year 2023-2024 Hayden Library roofing project. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it is unanimous that it has been, the resolution CLN 4/18/2024 has been approved. And so we will now be moving on to the personnel policy holidays 5.3.6 implementation date. There's an action item. I would entertain a motion that personnel policy holidays 5.6 be implemented starting on October 1st, 2024.
I'm sorry, starting when?
October 1st, 2024. The new fiscal year.
I moved it to holiday schedule, what did you say, as amended? I'm sorry, I missed the part, how you'd like me to word the motion.
Well, you can earn it.
I'll make it,
Or
yeah.
you can
Okay.
say so moved, or you can make up your own motion.
Yeah, that's good enough, I so moved.
Okay, it has been moved that the personnel policy holidays 5.3.6 be implemented starting on October 1st, 2024. Is there any discussion on that? Trustee Fox?
So do we need to put that in the policy because it's got the approved date, which is usually when the policy goes into effect? Seems like we need to modify the policy to say effective, maybe on the heading effective October 1st.
I am not sure. Would staff like to answer that?
I would, and I'll just mention, there were two versions, and I wanted to mention respectfully that normally one of the versions that I got, it looks like it's almost like a standalone policy, and this is just an excerpt that the board is making a change in. So typically you'll see us, instead of revising the whole personnel policy, we'll just make a notation in the language when it was updated. So my recommendation, if this motion goes forward, would be to that first copy that just has holidays, and I can clean this up. So the items that are yellow won't be there, the items that are stroked through, and I can put, if you want, as revised and approved on, and then insert today's day with the note to be effective October 1st, and that would be appropriate. So do we need to amend the motion or just have it done the way that you just described it? I think it's okay for you to leave the motion as it is. It's clear to me. I will just change the language in the policy so if this moves forward effective October 1st.
There is no further discussion. There is.
Yeah.
Professor Robinson.
Yeah, I'm just, the reason I have a bit of an issue with this is because I don't understand where it came from. And, I know I've heard some people say that Juneteenth isn't a holiday for this area.
Point of order.
The trustee will stay as point of order.
I believe the discussion is outside of the agenda line item.
Okay, the chair rules that, your point of order is valid. It does say implementation date. That's the only thing that was on the agenda.
Okay.
So if there is no further discussion, we will be voting on a motion that the personnel policy holidays 5.3.6 be implemented starting on October 1st, 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it, and the motion is carried that the personnel policy holidays 5.3.6 be implemented starting on October 1st, 2024. All right, so now we'll be moving on to agenda item 12, discussion of materials and withdrawal policies.
Chair.
We should be starting with the staff hybrid materials policy at the top. Trustee Robinson?
Yes, so I'm a little bit confused because I feel like the names under 12 don't match what I have, and I really want to make sure I'm on the right document as we go through them.
I know which one's which.
Okay, so the first one is the staff hybrid
Okay,
materials.
that I have
policy.
in pink.
Okay, so why don't we just start that? Because we only have 20 minutes. I don't know if we'll get beyond that or not.
Well, if we don't have these other ones in our packet,
Oh, they were in the packet.
Yes.
material selection and acquisition.
There's three versions.
It has a title.
There's a 6-pager that
Up at the
says,
top right here, it says material selection and acquisition policy.
I have material selection, acquisition, and withdrawal policy.
Okay, I believe that was the
a
staff draft.
That's a hybrid.
Oh, I have two of those, okay.
Oh.
Okay, collection, selection, and access policy. I don't have a material selection and acquisition policy.
That one you just mentioned, that's the staff version. It's 6 pages long. One you mentioned, it's got a top date, December 21st. Collection, selection, that's the staff version.
So collection, selection, and access policy is material selection and acquisition policy?
It's the version that the staff presented to the board. Independently on their own.
But it's two different titles, and I'm not trying to be difficult.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I'm on the right
I'll
thing.
do it.
Okay, well, why don't we just start with the one that down in the corner, it says staff hybrid, the bottom right corner.
Okay. But if we're contrasting all these, we need to know what we're looking at.
Okay, well, I would just like to establish whether we're interested in pursuing the staff hybrid
okay.
materials
Sounds good.
policy.
I'll
So,
take a shot at it.
Trustee Hanley?
Yeah, I'm happy to withdraw the hybrid I drafted. I put it together in a conciliatory fashion to give staff ownership and input, taking what their draft said and what the version that the board was working on for months. And the reason I say that is one of the items that was submitted on an email yesterday from the director not only shot a hole in my hybrid, but it was pretty much a 12 gauge shotgun blast of lots of things that were unacceptable to staff. I imagine she was speaking for staff as a whole. So I'm happy to withdraw my entire hybrid I drafted. It was just an attempt again to implement what the board has been doing and being receptive and open to what the staff was attempting to achieve in their version. So I'll just give you my opinion. I'm happy to drop it entirely. If that's a desire of the rest of the board.
Yeah, I missed that email.
Yeah,
It
was
was
that
at the
it?
end. It was at the end of, yesterday we got an email with all the position descriptions. And at the very bottom of that, page 81, 82, 83, from the bottom, that was included. I can show it to you here. That was yesterday afternoon
Okay,
email.
yeah, I can't
It was
download
very-
something like that onto my phone, so I didn't.
It's handed in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I also did not see that.
She was the one, but-
Trustee Claus?
So I didn't really pay attention to that part either, but I wanted to make a motion that we stop considering this for several, this version, this hybrid version for several reasons. One being, it takes away our ability to put the definition in that we were working on. It adds other references here, that just makes it more confusing. But I really like the paragraph. I've made a version or the same format as what the rest of the policies are here. So we're working under the paragraph under materials for minor. I would like to take that first paragraph and insert it into the board paragraph, the board selection policy. So that paragraph says protecting minors from explicit, it's on the board there, or on the screen there. Protecting minors from explicit and potentially developmental damaging sexual content is a serious consideration.
Okay, sorry, when we get to that, but right now, I think we should just stick with one topic at a time, which is that hybrid materials policy. So I mean, under the fair.
Suggesting, I would like to either make a motion or agree, but I would like to take this paragraph out and use it.
The mail packet.
Okay, yeah, I really appreciate the time and effort that you put into putting the two together. But there were a few reasons. If we had to go through the entire thing again, we don't have 10 more months. We've been working on this for 10 months. And I did like the idea of having two separate policies. So, and I also appreciate the one that the director put together. I'm sure that took quite a bit of time and effort, although probably less for her because she has more knowledge on this. But anyway, I appreciate everyone's efforts and trying to work together.
I did put in the packet, and again, the board packet, the first printed one, I think was 144 pages, and I think the table packet is something like 88 pages. So that was very intense. But hidden in that table packet is a memo from me called Selection Policy with HB 710 and the draft with SEPA. So I did want to give the trustees some advance notice of what I was thinking. And would this be appropriate to kind of talk about a little broader about this policy that we need to have changed and the deadline and some of the things that the new law will also need to be included in the next version? Would that be appropriate? I did put it in a memo format for you. So, but I don't think you guys probably got a chance to read it because what Trustee Hanley was talking about was the second page that talked about some of the concerns.
We have 12 minutes to remain on schedule in general.
I'd like to just move it up to you.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that we should determine whether we're going to work on the staff hybrid materials policy. I'm not sure if something like that, if it's appropriate called withdrawing it. We did agree as a board to discuss it. So we have, you'd be willing to not do it. I would prefer the one that we were already working on. Trustee Robinson, do you?
I do not have this what is it?
There's a 3 versions here.
No,
it's on this one.
3/1/24. I don't have that in my packet.
That's the one. that-
And that was in the packet?
Yes, did you have a chance to read through the staff hybrid?
When they first came out with it, yes.
Okay.
There's one of
Do
the-
But
you have an opinion on the staff hybrid?
there's been so much in between. I don't even remember what's what.
Yeah,
But I'm concerned that I don't have the 3/10/24 in my packet.
well, we may not get that far
Okay,
anyway,
all right.
so, but. Trustee Hannah?
Yeah, I think that if we're gonna try and make progress on this, and since I'm the one that drafted it up without being asked, I'm happy to drop what my version, this staff hybrid version, because it sounds as if you're not thrilled with it, neither is trustee Plus. The director indicated in a rather lengthy memo that he is not in favor of it. Apparently, it's got so many, again, not negatively, but like so many critiques in there of things that were conflicting and not working well, that I'm happy just to drop it out entirely. And I will say as well, I'm not happy with the staff version, the 6-page that was submitted to the board. So I don't really want to go down that route because I don't want the card policy involved in this discussion yet. I think that's a separate transaction down the line. So I'd be happy to go back to the version that the board's been working on for many months.
Okay, and Betsy Thomas, do you have comments on the staff hybrid?
I already made them. I was gonna make a motion to withdraw consideration of it, but I do want to use that one paragraph.
Okay, go ahead and make that motion then.
I move that we withdraw the staff hybrid policy from consideration.
It's just if you want back, I don't know.
Okay, it has been moved that we withdraw the staff hybrid policy from consideration. Is there any further discussion on that?
No.
Okay, well, then we will go ahead and vote on the motion, which is that we withdraw the staff hybrid policy from consideration. All those in favor, say aye.
Sorry.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, well, the ayes have it, and we are withdrawing the staff hybrid policy from consideration. That's
I
good.
don't think it's in the table. But it wasn't the one I got in the mail.
Like we still have that 9 minutes to go to the material selection and acquisition policy.
Can I talk about that House bill and what it means? I did do that little tiny summary. The message that I want to convey to the board is that I need a policy that allows us to be legally compliant and able to implement. So the last date that the board can continue is up until June 20th. And then I need at least 10 days to have a policy in place so that we can implement it July 1st. Per statute. So I just wanted to make sure the board understands their time frame, that the
Yes.
absolute last possible day that the board can approve a selection policy with reconsideration, material forms, and all of that is June 20th. So that was my primary message. I do have some other items that I've outlined that need to be added to whatever policy, our current policy, or any of the policies that we're discussing. So I don't know if the board would like me to draft that sample forms and some language for that to bring to another meeting, if that would be helpful, or if this has been kind of a trustee-driven policy change in writing. And so if you want to write that language, I just want to make sure that someone is doing it because we don't have that much time and I'd like us to be legally compliant.
I would be open to the director writing some suggestions, and also that if the last approval date is June 20th, that means that we would actually need to send it to the legal for review before then, correct?
And so either if the board wants to just take our current policy and have these changes made that are required by this new act, Otherwise, you guys got to get cracking, right? So, I mean, there's definitely a timeline. And so I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that that is the time frame.
Who's first? Trustee Boss?
So are we starting to go to the next item? Materials selection acquisition?
Yes,
We,
but
we don't have referencing here to the Idaho law for a reason. This is for us for buying it, so we don't have to make changes to make it match the Idaho law. It's not against the Idaho law, so we don't have to make a lot of these changes that are here. What I would like to do is simply add, if I've got it up here, after the second paragraph, or after the first paragraph of statement of purpose, I'd like to add that paragraph that came out of the hybrid policy. I can paste it in here now so you can see.
Yeah, go ahead and paste it, so everyone can see it. You can borrow my glasses if you need anyone. Trustee Bloss?
And
Hanley,
that's
sorry.
okay.
I had too many things rolling.
I would like to, have it be a director, the library director's job with the staff to create the form that's compliant with the Idaho law. I think that might be one of the only missing links we have in regard to the implementation. Other than tweaking the withdrawal and the reconsideration timeline to match up, we might need to tighten that slightly. But I think that there's no reason why we can't have a draft of the form. It looks relatively simple. It's got to state the Idaho description of what's harmful to minors or something. And I think I would be happy if that was handed off to staff to the director, and then we go ahead. There's a form required by HB, 710, that requires a form for people to request, the public to request relocation of materials. So that can be created by staff.
That's in the withdrawal.
I can't get in the conversation, sorry, but, so there is a requirement for a form, so we create it in the bill.
Sure.
Yes, Trustee Bloss.
So we are not saying where these books go in the selection policy. That's in the withdrawal. And that has the Idaho code. The withdrawal, we need to have that. This is just simply saying the definition of the books. We'll only buy books that meet this definition. And then we'll accept gifts. We don't have to have a form because we're not saying that we're relocating anything.
The law requires a form.
Well, I can.
Not for selection.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
I can
you're right, but
That's
it
the
would be,
reconsideration.
it would be good to get consensus.
That's gonna bog it down because we aren't referring to the Idaho code here.
Well, we're just asking staff to come up
That's in
with
the
a form.
withdrawal.
Yes.
It says where to go, so that's where the
Correct.
form needs to go. I'd just like to concentrate on getting this policy.
Well, we can get that, I'm sorry.
I think,
We can have action going on simultaneously. If the
Yeah.
staff drafts the form,
Yeah.
that will probably get incorporated language-wise into the withdrawal policy. At the same time now, we can go ahead and start tweaking or approving or doing whatever to the material selection or acquisition policy. There are two different things, but I do believe that SB 710, the form is associated with the withdrawal policy portion. Yes, not this. But I think before the clock runs out, let that assignment go off to staff. And then we go ahead and start wordsmithing what we've got here.
yeah, so just real quick, do you agree or not agree to let staff come up with a form draft and then we can get to that?
I agree with having them work on the form, but
Okay.
it's for the withdrawal policy.
Okay, and
And
Trustee
the
Robinson?
form draft for what exactly?
For,
Incorporating the new law?
yeah. So it's just a form where the public would fill it out and say, my child was harmed or whatever. the law
Oh,
says.
okay, yes,
So,
yes,
So you're,
yes.
okay, so we have unanimous consent on the staff coming up with a draft of the form to move. All
So if we don't need to follow,
Sorry. Doesn't look like yours, go ahead.
if we don't need to follow Idaho law for the acquisition policy, what law are we following? Like, I'm very confused as to what laws, if we're living and working in Idaho and operating in Idaho, what laws are we not following?
Okay, I don't think that's what he was saying.
That's
So,
what I understood, and so I'm trying to figure that out because I'm going to be implementing that.
well, it hasn't been changed, so we'll discuss that.
Sure.
Come to it, we should probably read this.
This policy is what CLN would use to buy books. It's not a matter, the withdrawal is the part where the law is involved, because that's saying where we move books and so forth. So basically, it's the same paragraph about the vocation of the librarian. But then we're adding, I would like to add this paragraph, protecting minors from explicit and potentially developmentally damaging sexual content is a serious consideration for the entire community, library board, and staff. No graphic, visual, or written depictions of sex will be included in this collection. Age-appropriate materials concerning biology, human anatomy, or religion are exempt from this directive. It's just that it was a great general statement that I think should be in the purpose.
It is a great general statement. I actually like the one from the director's version better. Do we have other comments on that? We're pretty much out of time, but you guys, yes or no?
I would comment if I could, just briefly.
Director?
Okay, I did, in that memo, kind of outline that statement. In the version that we had talked about, it was minors in that area were under 12, with the comment about nudity and graphic written and age appropriate. And the other version that was called the staff hybrid changed that to 18. And so I'm not sure that sounds very restrictive. And so the line about non-sexual nudity may only be included in the children's collection if it is mild and the material is written and geared toward a young audience. I think that's helpful for the reader of the policy's understanding of the intention of that statement. So I would recommend that it would be modified to be 12 and that other statement be put back in.
Trustee Boss?
We're talking about minors. Minors, by the definition in Idaho, is under 18. Idaho has never gone around saying under 12. I'm not going to have anything to do with participating in redefining minors being under 12. So this is a statement that should be there for all minors that go to community library and have
Okay,
or books.
so I don't think that we are going to come to any agreement in the next -1 minute. So we will continue discussion on that the next time this is brought up. And we will now go to break for 15 minutes. It is 3:53 and the break is over. This meeting will come to order. If the audience can, thank you, quiet down. All right, so the first item that we are doing is the number 14, discussion on delivery of legal reports. I believe legal counsel had said, whatever we want to do is fine with him. Discussion?
Yes, sure. Oh, go ahead. It's his item.
Well, I would make a motion then that we ask legal to give written reports and when appropriate, executive session.
Okay, ask legal to give written reports and when appropriate, what?
Use executive session.
Session, okay, it has been moved to ask legal to give written reports and when appropriate, use executive session. Mr. Robinson?
I'm just so confused on this. So does that mean if he's here and it's even on an action item, we can't ask him a question and so he's forbidden to answer us? What exactly is a legal report? Is that just an answer to a question, or is that a big long write-up that he needs to go home or to the office and assess a bunch of different things and write up a report?
I would think that this would be the standard and we can deviate that from anytime we have consensus and, you know, of course, if he's gonna be at the meeting, he can give us legal counsel at that time. Trustee Bloss?
So this specifically was brought up when we asked him to go off and research something and give us his opinion. So this is different than him just sitting in the meeting saying you shouldn't, I suggest you don't talk about that now, or being asked a question. But when he's given a question like policy we just voted on and we approved with legal review, his legal review should be come back written and executive session if necessary, if he recommends it.
Trustee Robinson?
So is that putting the decision on Mr. Boyles? Would he be the one to say, I believe this falls under your guys' new policy? I don't know what this is exactly. Would he be the one to decide if he needs to do this in, lack of a better term, secret? Or does the board decide, hey, we want that answer right now, look it up and please don't just read it verbatim and actually interpret it to us? Or does he make the decision? Because it's got to be more clear than it's either an executive or a written. Because I know I like to ask him a lot of questions and he doesn't necessarily answer many of mine for whatever reason. But the questions I asked him don't need to be in a report or a secret.
I think the proper term would be confidential, because some things should be confidential, and
Confidential.
Trustee Bloss?
This is specifically when we ask him to give a review of a situation or a policy that we've written, and he's going to go offline and the next meeting come back and give us his review. That's when he would do it in writing. When we're there at the meeting and asking him question, or you got a question, you just, ask him. But this is when we give him an assignment to go do a legal review of X, Y, Z.
Okay, yeah, policies or an assignment that clarifies things. Trustee Robinson?
Can you reread the motion then?
It has been moved that we ask legal to give written reports and when appropriate, use executive session.
I think it's too vague in that case.
Do you have an amendment or?
I don't, because I just think it's a bad idea in general. I think that we can decide here and there when we want it, if it's supposed to be executive, that's usually, I wouldn't say obvious because it's not obvious when things should be executive session, but there are statutes for that. And that could be a discussion in itself. Other than that, I think him giving us a confidential report should be the exception to the rule, not him actually answering a question. That shouldn't be the exception to the rule.
Trustee Anderson?
What?
Oh,
Can we?
we're,
Okay, it would seem to me that, let's just say we have a policy we put together, we finish it, we provide it to legal counsel review. And legal counsel says, well, this area right here is a risky area, it's potential to litigation, but it may fly. Well, there's no reason to toot our horn and put that in our publicly. I think that should be provided to us confidentially, just as you would anywhere else, as using an attorney in a private fashion and separate from the board. So I think there are times where especially using confidential, and then especially if it was, litigation imminent, then we go to, executive session. So I don't know exactly how I should word the, motion, but I think that there are definitely times where we should be given counsel in confidence, just, privately to the board.
Okay, director's next.
I was just gonna say, what I typically see is each time a board makes that request, okay, we're reviewing this policy, can you give us a report on this? You set at that time the deadline and how you want it. And so I still think, I mean, from what I am gathering from this conversation is that generally we want more written reports. And I don't have a concern with that in any way. But what I think is that making a motion that everybody is supposed to understand that's so vague is really difficult for me. I would rather it be as maybe a motion that says as a default, we will ask in the meeting when we make the request and give him the deadline and ask for the format that we want it in, but that we like written reports. I mean, I think that's fair. I think that's just feedback for council. I'm a little concerned by just the vagueness of it, about what is a legal report.
Okay, yeah, actually, I like written, my brain assimilates it better, and then plus you can always go back and review it. So, Trustee Fox?
I can offer an amendment just to clarify. So the whole purpose of this was talking about resolving what do we do about legal reports, but preface it with when requested, when a legal opinion is requested, it be submitted in written form before the meeting. I should have said that, so we have a chance to review it. It's when a legal review is requested.
Okay, so when legal review is requested, would be the amendment and have that before ask legal to give written reports and when appropriate, use executive session. So just kind of,
Yeah.
So it would be the
That
default.
would be the when legal question.
Okay.
Do we have to vote to amend the motion?
Yes, we do. If you have something to say, or do you want me to read well, actually, I should read the amendment. So the amendment is, when, it would start out with when legal review is requested, added to before the original motion, which was ask legal to give written reports and when appropriate, use executive session. Does that clarify?
It doesn't
anything?
change much, but
Answers to the vagueness. Legal review is requested.
not for me, it doesn't.
No.
Are we asking whenever when we request a legal review, that if we're asking for a legal review on something, that we want it in writing and confidential? Or official use only, whatever terminology is proper, is that? I mean, otherwise, if there's a discussion going on in the room here and we have legal counsel and ask a question, that's one thing. I don't want to have to get every answer back secretly, but I do think that if, or confidential, that's what we're looking for, confidentially. But if we're asking for a legal opinion, anytime we ask for a written legal opinion, maybe that's provided to us confidentially. Is that? I don't know. I'm trying to understand fully because it is confusing the way it's been bantied about in terms of the initial motion and the amendment to the motion. I no longer know what I'm voting on.
Okay, so first we would vote on whether we're going to add that amendment or not, and then we would discuss the whole motion.
Discussion on the amendment.
Yeah, all right. So if there's no further discussion on the amendment only, Trustee Glass?
The intent of this is when legal review, it's not necessarily legal opinion. I think that kind of means something else, but the legal review of our policy that we're proposing, legal review of action we want to take. When we are asking him to give a legal review, we want it in writing. So that's why I think legal review is a better word. But he specifically said, I'll give it in whatever format you want. You guys tell me what you want. And we have never told him, so he just ends up giving it. So this is a motion to tell him what we want. We want it in writing.
Carrie, for.
Yes, Trustee Hayden?
So I'm just wondering, do we just withdraw the amendment and the initial motion and just say, when a legal review is requested by counsel, that it be provided in writing and confidentially, or what, is that all? I'm just trying to understand that it's
So,
confusing
from
wording for
counsel
me.
then.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, Trustee Johnson.
I don't know why there has to be a motion, since we can request our attorney to do whatever we bid him to do. Whether he does it or not is another question. But we could, at the time, if it's something that we deem sensitive, we can say, we would like this in a written report. But I do wonder, because I honestly don't know, is that something that's FOIA-able, even if it's a written report from our attorney? Is that something that can be FOIA'd by the public anyway?
I think that while it's controversial, it would be under attorney-client privilege. But then after, well, at some point it would be FOIA-able.
So
If I could just,
Oh, yes, please.
I was just going to add, since I do the public records requests, I could potentially see where this would cause more cost and additional legal costs. So essentially, some of the material might have to be redacted. Some of the information would be available to the public. And so I would have some comfort in that. And then after that point, I would send it to legal review to review the redaction of the material. So I could actually see what you're asking for as costing the district more money in legal fees, because I would refer to them for redacting purposes about whether it's discoverable or not, if that makes sense. So again, there are very limited reasons that information cannot be disclosed, and those are spelled out in the statute. And so I am a little concerned about this idea of confidential and executive session, or just all. If it is a policy, that is what they call public or public business. And so again, you're kind of crossing wires. If you're asking about, should we sign this contract and enter into this, and he's giving you a legal review of a contract, that's very different than a legal review of a public policy. And so I could actually see where this is starting to potentially cost more money, because I think what you're talking about is probably public record.
So actually your time is about up for this. Actually, it is. I'm kind of thinking that since it already has two options in there, we would already have to specify every single time which one we want. So we might as well just
Call the question.
Well, we have the amendment that we would have to vote on first before.
Let's do it.
All right, so the amendment is, or the question is whether to amend the original motion with when legal review is requested. So the whole thing would say, when legal review is requested, ask legal to give written reports, and when appropriate, use executive session. So we're just voting on whether to add the amendment or not add the amendment right now, which is when legal review is requested to qualifier at the beginning of it.
Okay, so to understand, I mean, I think that's what trustee Robinson suggested. It's only when we ask for it. So do we even need a motion for this? Or is it just if we're having a meeting, we have a question or a thing we're sending to council, say we'd like a, whatever you call it, a review of something, and only when we ask for it to be given to us as confidential? It is done on a case by case basis? I'm not sure I'm understanding.
yeah, but-
The need, I don't know.
Yeah, but we're not discussing the entire motion right now. We're just discussing the amendment,
Okay.
whether to add the amendment or not. So all those in favor of adding the amendment when legal review is requested to the original motion, say aye.
Nay.
I guess. Yeah. All right. So then we go to the whole motion, which is when legal review is requested, ask legal to give written reports and when appropriate, use executive session. If there is no further debate,
But there
vote
is,
on.
I have. It sounds like every time we ask for legal counsel, you have to read that back, please.
When legal review is requested, ask legal to give written reports and when appropriate, use executive session.
Okay.
It's, so if there's no further debate, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Um,
Super vague.
I think the motion needs more work, so gonna vote nay. We can bring this up again at a later time, but for now, the motion fails. So, the next item is discussion on periodic acquisition reports and cost of customized program. I believe that the director is going to have something on that.
I apologize. I do not know what that topic is. I know what the periodic acquisition reports are, and we presented a copy at a meeting, and then we're going to get feedback about whether or not that met the needs of the board and whether or not they wanted to us to get a quote for customized programming. And so I haven't heard any feedback from the board about whether what we delivered last time was sufficient or whether there needed to be additional work.
So was there did you have like a ballpark cost of how much it would cost for a customized program? I think that's just what we were going to discuss, was how much would it cost for.
I have not made a request. I think the report, I mean, I don't know what the purpose of the report is, so I've mentioned that several times, but I think the report, let me put it this way. This Koha is an international software company that represents public libraries, academic libraries, school libraries. And what we're essentially saying is that we are the only library that sees a need for a report that's done in this specific way. And that may be the case, but I think it's probably sufficient for a general need. And so I don't know if the board has reviewed that and they want to give feedback that they think it's fine. I can, as a next step, if they don't think it's fine, I can go get a quote. But I would need to know what specifically, and if all of the trustees agree with Hanley presented a handout at the last meeting that had materials in a certain format, if everybody wants the report in that format.
Stanley?
I didn't look back at the minutes, but it was my recollection, this is a two-pronged direction. One was staff or the library director was going to provide us a ballpark figure out what it would cost for customized reports out of COA. That was one task, or if I recall correctly. And the other one was for the trustees to review the report that was provided at the last meeting to see whether it was adequate or not. I did look it over, and I have a number of questions on this. One is at the top, it says report ID 990. I'm just wondering, is that a report that already existed in COA and it popped out here. I don't know where that came from. And if that's the report number 990, are there 900 other reports in front of that are available? I don't know what that represents. That was one question. Another question I have is, I would like to know how many data elements are contained in any given line item in the CIM, the COA, the system. Because there may be data elements we're interested in seeing as trustees. And going back, and not that I have to argue and to justify this report, but it's very informative for the public to say, hey, look at this. There's these new books I was looking for. There's a report out there they can look at. But secondarily and importantly, the board has a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that we're complying with the Idaho statutes. And there's a new one out there, obviously, and the libraries are no longer have a legal defense to have inappropriate material. And so we can claim we don't have any, but we have a responsibility to know what's being purchased out there. And so I want to review, and I want the trustees to have access, and the general public would as well, I'm sure, to see what is being purchased on a periodic basis. Right now, we have it as every 2 months. So going back to my questions, I want to know all the data. I'd like to see a list of, and that would require, obviously, other trustees to agree. I would like to know all of the data elements that are in the CIN, meaning there's an author, obviously, there's the name of the title of the book, there's probably a price in there, there's probably usage. I don't want anything also that includes patron-specific data. I do know a missing data element for this. And by the way, I want to say thank you for the initial report. I did skip that. That was my first item on my little Post-it note here. Thank you for the first version. It was a 149-page report with whatever 20 some items per line. But so we do need to see the audience, because the audience identifies whether this is an adult purchase, meaning the material, or whether it's a minor's item. And the audience is the data element that tells us that. And that way we can ensure that we're doing our job and making sure we're not purchasing any inappropriate books. And it's possible we could even incorporate that discussion in our policy when we talk about purchases at the review process. It's an audit, we'll call it a way of ensuring compliance. And I know there's been pushback. Oh, when we feel guilty, you're censoring here. No, you know what? We have an audit that's done, a financial audit that's done on an annual basis. And it's because we think there's illegal things going on with money? No, we're doing it to ensure compliance and make sure everything's being done properly. So that's why I'm asking for this report. Not that, again, that I have to justify it. We asked for it, we got the first round, and I'm happy with that start. But I would like to know what all the data elements are that are available for a given line item. I would like to know, if there are any, what reports exist already. Again, report ID number 990, okay? Are there other already formatted reports in this system as outputs? I don't know if I need to get consensus from the rest of the trustees that and my last item, which is very important, I want it electronically delivered, either as an email, or if it's too large, then it be accessible for us to go. And I don't know what you call it though when you pull something up, but we can access a site and then take a look at that ourselves, because that gives us the ability to sort and slice and dice and look at things and analyze it as whatever fashion we wish. So I'll entertain this, well, I won't entertain discussion. I'm finished. Thank you.
Yes, Trustee Plus.
So I went and looked at the minutes, and I had already made my comment last meeting. I would like it be able to be exported into Plus wants to know if the report can be exported into Excel. So I would like an electronic version of it. If it can't be done, what I'm really wanting is sorted by audience. New books sorted by audience. So all in one section is the different age groups. That's what I'm looking for. I mean, maybe there's another field that could be added, the barcode, not the barcode, but the Library of Congress code or something. Somebody can search on and come up with a description of the book. I don't know. I don't know what's there without having to type the title, but definitely sorted by audience, and I would like it electronic if possible.
Yeah, actually, now my memory was jogged, that the director had said that it might save us money to do a customized programs because of the time, if we were going to keep doing this, the same program over and over again, it would possibly save money just by saving the staff time from the report that they gave us last month. And so that's what we were wanting to know what the cost of, and I thought that you had offered to find out that cost for us.
My recollection is that the board was going to review, the final comment was that the board was going to review. I need to know specifically what the board wants changed from the current report in order to get a quote.
Trustee Robinson.
Since I'm not 100% sure what this is, the report's for, I just wonder if, and I don't know if this would be less work overall anyway, but I just wonder why the report wouldn't just reflect books for minors in the different categories for the different, whatever they come, like 0 to, I don't think it's exactly 0 to 12 and 12 to 18 that the library purchases them as, but why? I would assume that this report has to do with protecting children. So why do we want all adult books on the list? And again, I don't know if that would help staff or COHA in the long run anyway, but why, since I don't know exactly what this list is for, but I assume it has to do with children's books, why not just have children's books on it?
Go ahead, Trustee Henry.
I'd rather just have, I want to know what's in the system. I just feel like there's a lot of secrecy and hiding behind the scenes here. What information is in this system and what capabilities does the current system have right now? Where did this report come from? I mean, this same report cannot be delivered to us electronically, the one we just got. But again, it is absent the most, well, not most critical, but a critical one, data element or field is the audience. That will tell us what's being purchased for minors. But where is this information coming from? I mean, we got this report. What did this report come from? Did someone sit there and manually have to lift different data fields or data elements out of the CIN system and manually produce each piece of this? I mean, for example, I have no interest whatsoever in the location on here. It doesn't make any help. There's no help to me at all. Or maybe even an item call number. But the title, the author, the data came into the system is important. The audience is important. But before we go out and ask for customized reports somewhere, what can this system produce now? Because where did this report come from? And so I want to move on. I want to make sure that we don't go past time. I want an electronic report next time around. That much I want, and I want the audience included as one of the data elements. And eventually, I'd like to go to a monthly basis because it was a sizable number of purchases in 2 months. It's much easier to look at 1 month at a time, but I won't ask for that yet. But I can see that as being just as easy, because once the report is created, once the format is done, once the program is done, it's just a matter of putting in a date range and popping off a report. It should take 5 minutes, or it could be available to the general public, including the trustees, just to put in our own report right there somewhere. It's a matter of, it appears again that the CIN system, looking at the COA system, it is a very robust reporting system. That's what their website even says. There's data in here, and I want information. So I would like, again, because we're going to run out of time on this line item, I would like concurrence, and I don't know if we don't have to make a motion, I don't think, that the next report be provided in electronic format, ideally in Excel, and it's to include the audience. I don't mean to sound argumentative, but we've been getting a lot of pushback on this thing ever since the first time I broached this subject.
Okay, I would agree with that. An electronic sortable the audience and those things. We have consensus on that?
Asking for,
Do you agree to that? Asking for it, what he just asked for?
Electronically, including the audience.
the information of all the fields and everything. Yes.
Okay.
So,
And
can I clarify? So I think if that's okay, I want to know what are all the data elements contained in the CIN for any given line item. I want the next report to provide it or available to us electronically. And it must include the audience, because I know that's in the CIN system or in the COA system.
okay, and trustee Robinson?
I'm just so confused on why this is so important. So if it's gonna happen, yes, electronically. You got my vote on that one for sure.
Okay.
No more cutting down trees for this.
We definitely have consensus on that. And so director, is there a way to get like a range of how much different programs would cost? Like if, there was one, I don't know. Can you get a range for us on the cost of the program?
I'll reach out to them and find out what they can do. I know currently we have to run a report for each location. So we would have to run one for each branch and outreach. So there'll be at least 8 reports coming. Not to my knowledge, do we have that information broken down by audience. So I think the request is currently impossible with our current system. So I will make a request to COHA and find out what they can do. I think it would make the most sense to be able to run all of CLN in one report, and it would make sense to add audience. So those are the 2 pieces that I can think of immediately that need to be added. But I will consult with staff that run the reports in our collection development library, and I'll bring back some more information. But at this point, no, I'm not able to provide what you've asked for.
I'm not following.
Go ahead, trustee Henning.
I'm not following why we're being told that we're not going to be provided, or it can't be provided what we asked for. How did we get, I don't understand how this list got produced. It's obviously in a data assessed sequence. And I don't really care about the sequence. If it's provided to us electronically, we can sort it any which way we want. But the data element, the audience is in the system. Well, obviously, so is the call number, the author, the title, the location, and many other things. I'm sure that probably the usage on an item is in the system. Otherwise, the staff would have no idea how often a book is used. There's a lot of data in there. So I don't understand how we can have these data fields, but we can't have the audience. I need clarification on that.
Staff? Assistant director?
Within COHA, there are multiple modules. There's the cataloging module, the circulation module, the acquisitions module. And what you're talking about is mixing different information from different modules. So there is not one report that's going to give you all this information. Because if you want the number of circulations, that's in circulation. That's not in cataloging. And so that's part of this that you need to understand. The other part is that not every library uses every single field within COHA. We do not use the audience field. We do a call number location and we do subject headings. We don't use audience. Other libraries within CIN might do that, but we do not. So that's why the request right now is impossible.
Trustee Henning?
I'm sorry. We are using the audience to my knowledge because items are listed in there as adult, or if they're blank, they're defaulted as adult. There's young adult or whatever it is. I read them off when I asked for this report initially. There are about 5 different categories in there. Let's say 4 of them at least. There's junior or junior adult, whatever. I don't remember what they call it. I didn't bring my list with me. I figured that was already a foregone conclusion. We are using the audience field because if you look up multiple different books in the system, there's an audience assigned to the given line items to the different books. So I don't know who's putting those in there, but it's a populated field. And if the field is populated, it's just a matter of taking information from different tables and putting it into a report. So if it would finish out temporarily the discussion, I would like to see some pricing on, which we're supposed to have this meeting. I would like to see what it costs. If it has to go to COA, create a report that minimally shows us the title, the author. And I know it was, and obviously the audience, assuming our audience field is being populated, but my knowledge, after looking at the system going into the CIN, it is in there. There are categories in there already assigned to the books we have in our system now. So I tend to disagree with that, but I don't know how they got in there. If they were saying they're not there, I can't pull it up right now at the table here. So I would like electronic, at very least, and we know we can do this, an electronic report next month that would include the last 2 months. That would be, have it in front of me there. The next report is due in May for the purchases of materials and put into the CIN in March and April. And ideally that will be Excel, but some electronic fashion, and with whatever data is available to stick in that report.
Professor Foss?
So I don't want to delay all this going out and getting quotes and trying to decide what a customized report. We got the report. I don't think we paid money for it. Let's just get the same thing electronically, but include audience if it's there or an explanation, but do the same thing will be electronically. Good.
Okay, well then I'm in agreement with that. We have consensus. Moving on to our next item, which is discussion on minute taking. I think it would be less divisive, less corrections, and easier to find something in the minutes if we just did as the Idaho Commission for Libraries, Robert's Rules, and Jim McNall in his December 2022 ICRIM presentation to this board all specify, which is namely the minutes are supposed to be a record of what was done, not what was said. I think a brief summary of dry main facts as to what was done and why it was done without speakers' names, other than who made the motions, would be good. So I move that starting today, minutes are taken according to the ICFL trustee manual with a few dry main facts supporting why something is done. So it has been moved that starting today, minutes are taken according to the ICFL trustee manual with few dry main facts supporting why something was done. And for the benefit of staff, that is pages 81 and 82 in the staff or in the trustee manual, the ICFL trustee manual.
Have they say so moved?
No, I made the motion.
No, okay, I'll say so moved.
Can we repeat that for the minutes, please?
Yes, ma'am. It is, I move that starting today, minutes are taken according to the ICFL trustee manual with a few dry main facts supporting why something was done. Trustee Robinson, sorry, you can say third if I.
Oh, no, that's right. I was just waiting for you to be done. So this was an interesting read for sure. The how minutes should be. I don't have a big problem with this. I would like to, whether it's kosher or not, I'd like to hear any reason why this is a not a good idea from staff. But I would assume that after this motion is voted on, our minutes after this still might be done in a way where a trustee might have an issue with it. Maybe there's still too much information or not enough information. So I'm just wondering, number one, if it's going to be pliable at first, like we can still talk about like There's not enough written down. And also I just wanted to, this Idaho Commission for Libraries, I believe there's been in the past things that they suggest to do where a trustee says, well, why do we need to listen to them? So I don't know if it's okay to pick and choose what we go by according to Idaho Commission for Libraries, and then we just throw other things aside that they suggest. I do have a bit of an issue with that. I don't know if it's good to pick and choose. But I'm fine. I mean, and honestly, the person that does the minutes might be relieved to not have to type so much, but that's what I have to say on it. I like I said, I would like to hear from staff, even if trustees don't think that's important, if there's a reason they don't think this is a good idea.
Okay, I had picked ICFL or, because it says it's basically the same thing as Robert's Rules, which says basically the same thing as Jim McNall in that presentation. I just figured pick one, make it easier on staff so they don't have to like try to compile something from 3 different sources. So, so staff, was there any reasoning against this?
I don't know if Lindsay or Janelle want to add comments. I would open it up for their comments.
I have no comments.
Okay, trustee Bloss?
So I'm particularly taken by number 2 of the Roberts Rules.
Oh,
And,
actually, before you get into that, I just want to say that that's not actually Robert's Rules. It's a commentary on Robert's Rules that was given to us in our packet, although it's probably fairly accurate, but anyway.
things that do not go into the minutes. Number 2, content or summary content of the debate or discussion of motions being considered. So I don't think the summary of the debate should be in the minutes. And that's basically what the other one said.
Okay, so it's to prevent a he said, she said, but Jim McNall in his ICRIMP presentation to the board in December of 2022 did say that there should be enough in there that 20 years from now, someone can figure out what happened and why it happened. But we don't need, all the he said and she said and the pointing fingers and all that. Just, give a couple, the main reasons why something was done. So we do need some in there. We want to be transparent and we want to be able to look something up and go, oh yeah, that's right. That's why we did that.
Sure.
Professor Robinson?
So again, I assume if this goes through that in future months, we're going to kind of assess how the minutes are and give pointers of like saying, oh, that's a little bit too much or that's too personal. I'm just saying that because I don't want whoever's doing the minutes to feel nervous or pressured that they're doing them wrong because they're not 100% clear, and to pare it down, but there'll still maybe be comment from the trustees saying that's still too much, or you need to be more clear, or just because it's not as easy as it seems to just like
I'm sure.
change.
Yeah, we could if it seems necessary. If the staff has questions, they can ask, or if we have comments. So if they're
Just,
trustee Henry?
I have no issue with it, and since staff isn't disagreeing, if it means there's less writing and less detail, I think it should be a less workload on them, and if it makes reading through the minutes, when we go through the consent agreement area, well, that makes it easier for us, so I have no objections to it at all.
Okay, Trustee Robinson?
Okay, that's right. I do remember I had something else. What about public comment? Because it's pretty detailed. Is that even going to stay in? Is there a reason? And I did go through most of this, but I don't remember seeing anything about public comment. Is that even supposed to be in the minutes?
It doesn't seem like it was addressed, so maybe it's not. I mean, I kind of find it helpful, but you know, on the other hand, we can always go back and because it's supposed to be a record of what was done.
Right.
So the audience speaking is
So,
something, isn't something that the board is doing.
right. So I don't know if that means because it says people's names in the minutes, right? Says their names
it
and
does.
a big summary of each person. So I say we just knock that whole thing out. No names, no anything.
Seems reasonable to go along with what was done by the board. Go ahead.
Or we could at least put the names of the people that presented and gave public comment. Maybe that one should be, that did take place at the meeting, but as to what each person said, I'm indifferent. I don't know if it's required or if it's any value to it, but we obviously listened to them. And maybe it's a good thing to have a record of who did speak, but anyway, I don't know if it's required or not. No. It's less writing and less reading for everybody if we don't have to record it, and type it up and summarize it. I thought there are a lot of, that's a difficult one. People speak for 3 minutes, and I thought the staff has done a great job of summarizing what someone said for 3 minutes into about 3 sentences sometimes. But if it's not required, I'm fine with not having it in there.
Trustee Foss, did you have any comment on this?
I think the public comment should at least have the speakers' names in there. And I would like to see, you know, a subject of what they spoke on, maybe just a phrase or something, subject.
So the name and a phrase? I'm okay with that. All right, so if there is no further debate, hearing none.
I'm sorry, one more thing.
That's right.
I assume this is not retroactive.
I think you said it.
I'll reread it. I move that starting today, minutes are taken according to the ICFL trustee manual with a few dry main facts supporting why something was done. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it is unanimous and that, and the motion is carried that starting today, minutes are taken according to the ICFL trustee manual with a few dry main facts supporting why something was done. All right, so the next item is minutes of the regular meeting of February 15th, 2024. And so we're not going retroactive with the minutes thing. So what corrections do we have to make those minutes more neutral? Or corrections? Yes, response.
This says amended minutes or amended board, so these haven't been modified. It was that the agenda was amended. I just wondered what was changed in the minutes that were given out for the packet.
Yes, I believe it was just the amended word there is referring to the agenda itself and not the minutes. Is that correct? Okay, we got it on. All right.
That is correct. And these minutes are exactly as they were presented originally. They've not been modified in any way.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Halleck?
So I can't recall now, were we looking to minimize some kind of verbiage in here or remove it in the last? I know we didn't approve this during the consent process, so are we now looking to see what we want to remove from this? I don't remember.
Yeah, if there were any corrections, or I believe that the initial problem was that maybe some of the wording was not neutral or perceived as not neutral. Trustee Robinson?
I believe I remember exactly. It was on page 1, 2, 3, 4 under discussion on insurance operations. A trustee wanted, about 2/3 down, the sentence Eccles questioned the board's criteria for option 3 and criticized the decision on reckless, criticized the decision as reckless. You guys see that sentence? A trustee wanted that removed, and that was said at the meeting, so it is fact. And I propose that we just, since we now have just changed up how the minutes are done and it's not retroactive, I say we leave this as is and just pass it. The unsaid motion.
Trustee Claus?
Yeah, that particular sentence there. I think I'm the one that brought that up as an example of a lot more information that didn't need to be there. I'm fine with accepting them the way they are and leaving that, and going forward, we wouldn't put information like that in.
Okay, so are there any corrections then? Any typos or anything like that? Okay, then I would entertain a motion.
So I move that we accept the Community Library Network Board of Trustee regular meeting minutes, Thursday, February 15, 24. I don't know if I need to say the amended part. I don't think so. Maybe I do.
Let's see, okay, so it has been moved to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of February 15th, 2024. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, it is unanimous and motion is carried. Minutes of the regular meeting of February 15th, 2024 are accepted.
I would really recommend we don't use the word amended. It's too confusing. The agenda was amended, but we didn't amend the minutes. So if we're talking about the minutes, I don't think we should be saying amended unless we come back and we amend the minutes.
Okay, I find that to be confusing as well.
Is there,
So do we have consensus on?
yeah, is there, the staff have any, is there some technical reason why? Because I agree, it looks like someone amended the minutes. I'm approving an amended set of minutes, so I agree when there's an amended, yes, agenda, that's different.
You know what?
But is there any reason, is that a requirement that to say amended on the minutes?
That actually doesn't fall under the subject heading as much as I would like to.
Oh, that's what I thought.
So, because we're just discussing the minutes of that particular
Okay.
meeting. So, we'll have to bring that before the board on another time. All right, so, the next thing is a discussion on balanced budget draft. Oops, hold on. Okay, discussion on balanced budget draft from staff. I move that staff delivers an initial budget draft that is balanced to the best of their professional knowledge and ability. I'll repeat the motion there. I move that staff delivers an initial budget draft that is balanced to the best of their professional knowledge and ability. So I'm not blaming, because I know that last year was unusual and that we had an interim director who already had enough on her plate. And that lasted through the time that we normally have been presented with a balanced budget. But I sure don't want to repeat of dealing with last year's unheard of unbalanced budget that caused a lot of unnecessary upheaval in the community and on the board. So obviously, after we get a balanced budget, the board can alter that in whatever way that the majority feels is fit, and they have the final say. But we need a proper foundation to springboard from and not cause the terrible upheaval that we had last year.
Sure.
Yes, Trust Plus.
I would maybe propose an amendment to that would say they offer, I forget how you had it, but offer the balanced budget with a list of wants that didn't make it or something, a list of, recommended items or something. But don't include it in the budget, I guess is what I'm saying, if it doesn't fit.
Okay, so like a supplemental list of wants.
Yeah, so.
Trustee Robinson?
So maybe I would like to hear from staff, how they go about drafting up the budget in the first place. What I would assume-ish is that they go by what was spent the year before on certain things. You know, my favorite thing is snow removal. I use that. Like what we budgeted for snow removal and what we actually used. And maybe they go in, because I think we were under actually. So maybe they like meet in the middle on that one. So, okay, I'm getting to my point. I believe that a budget is supposed to come to the board possibly uneven, not balanced, so that the board does what they are here to do and shave off money from what the board decides to shave it off of to supplement places that are lacking. Like this last year.
Actually, I'm sorry, your comments are out of order because what we're discussing right now is the amendment.
Oh my God. Okay, I think the amendment was, I think when somebody makes a motion, before discussion even starts and somebody makes an amendment, I think that's just a bad idea. So there's my discussion on the amendment.
Okay, thank you for your point. All right, so where would this amendment be? Okay, you said that is balanced to the best of their professional knowledge and ability, and then add the amendment with this. Okay,
Chair,
okay.
I have something to say on that. Okay, so this amendment means balance the budget before you give it to us, and then put in extra stuff that we can't give you anyway. So I'm telling you right now, I will be a big no on that amendment.
Okay, Trustee Henley, did you have a comment on the amendment?
No, I don't, I just wanted to comment that, oh, that's right. So we're limiting to the amendment only.
Yes.
I lost track of that. No, so is that, can you read it back, just the
Okay.
national part, not the whole amendment, if you don't mind?
Okay, so the amendment is with a supplemental list of wants.
Yeah, no comment.
Trustee Claus?
The thinking behind that is we were given a budget that was unbalanced by 250,000 or something last year. And we had to go in and figure out what the wants were and take them out. If the staff gives us the list of wants, we would like to have another person in IT. We would like to have, you know, another librarian. We would like to, or whatever they want. Maybe we'll see some things we can change and we can get those wants in. So I don't want to lose track of what they want. That's why I'm asking for the list. I would just like them to tell us what's the most important things they have to have.
Chair,
Trustee Robinson?
I'd like to make an amendment on the motion.
You can't because we have to deal with this at the First Amendment first.
You can only make one amendment to a motion.
Call the question.
Okay, the question has been called on voting on the amendment, which is with a supplemental list of wants. So the entire thing would.
No, you don't read the whole.
Okay, you guys get it? Without me reading? Okay. Okay, so all those in favor, or wait,
We're
yeah,
voting
all
on the
those in
amendment.
favor of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, the ayes have it, and the question has been called, so now we will vote on the amendment, which is adding the words with a supplemental list of wants. All those in favor of adding the amendment?
All right.
Nay.
Okay, so the amendment passes to add to, so that now the entire main motion is, I move that staff delivers an initial budget draft that is balanced to the best of their professional knowledge and ability with a supplemental list of wants. And so the reason why I wanted a budget or a balanced budget is so that we don't have the chaos that we had last year. And so far as I know, I've heard from former trustees who were on the board, and while I was on the board, before the new makeup of the board, the budget came to us balanced already, and then we switched things around. That I believe that is part of the duties of staff, is to come up with what they believe is best, and then, we can modify that if needed. But it has always come to us balanced before the initial draft. Trustee Hanley?
Yeah, and to support that idea, I did, as a rookie last year, not that I'm any great veteran at this, I did ask the longevity trustee, trustee Blank, do we normally get a budget that's not balanced from staff? And she said, we never get one that way. It was emphatic. So I don't think what we're asking for is unusual. It did sound, based upon her way of presenting it to me, that that's typical and normal, and it's never been presented in an unbalanced fashion. That was my recollection from last summer when I asked about it.
Okay, Trustee Robinson?
And just for context, back in those days, I forgot what the longevity days, whatever you said about.
Or longevity trustee.
Yes. Back in those days, they always took the extra 3%, which is one reason that they always were presented with a balanced budget. Then lockdowns happened and we got a surplus of money because we went to 0% right after COVID, but there was a surplus of money. And then that's when we started doing the pay raises that took 2 years to do because we didn't have the money. So I suggest we amend the motion, and at the end of it, add, knowing that 1 to 2% might be taken away from the budget for fiscal year 25 or 24, 25, that mid-year thing that throws me off. So you want them to have a balanced budget and a wish list, and they know full well that this board wants to take money, negative money, for next year.
Okay, so actually that reminds me that in previous years, they had different columns. So they had a 0% column and a 1% addition column and a 2% and a 3%. So I don't know that this amendment would be necessary because, we should get those, 0, 1, 2.
My amendment said -1 because trustees want to take money away from the budget.
Right, so, okay.
It's been said out loud.
Okay, so let me make sure that I got your amendment correct. Knowing that 1 to 2% might be taken away for 2025, or was it fiscal year 2025?
Put it -1 or -2.
Okay, so knowing that -1 to 2%. Wait, that wouldn't make sense with the words.
Maybe that the 25 budget will be -1 or -2. I don't know how you word that, but I think it should be part
I
of
think
it.
it made sense the first way you had
Okay,
it.
perfect.
Knowing that 1 to 2% might be taken away for fiscal year 2025. Okay, so do we have discussion on the amendment? Trustee Blas?
I don't think we need to say that. I mean, they do the budget a standard way of 0, 1, 2, and 3%. But each of those columns should be balanced. And they don't, there's no reason to think we're going to go lower. We did it this year because we had the money from the
Ready?
URD. But anyway, I don't care for adding that.
Okay, I don't think it's necessary. Trustee Henley?
So, are you going to give it, or are we asking them to present a budget where the 0% increase, 1, 2, and 3? That's the way I think we saw it last year. I was happy with that.
Yeah.
Or did we not specify it all?
It's
See what
always
shows up.
been that way, but then on the other hand, we've always had a balanced budget presented to us, so,
With each column balanced.
right. Okay, so the question is on adding the amendment, knowing that 1 to 2% might be taken away for fiscal year 2025 to the amended motion.
I'm sorry, Chair.
Yes, would you like me to read the whole thing?
No, I'm gonna withdraw because, mostly because the trustee that has in the past in public meetings say that he wants to take 1 to 2% away, just said that he never said that. So, I'm just gonna withdraw my.
Okay, all right. So then if there is no further discussion, it has been moved that staff delivers an initial budget draft that is balanced to the best of their professional knowledge and ability, with a supplemental list of wants. So if there's no further discussion on that, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the ayes have it. The motion is carried, and so it is. So the motion is carried that staff delivers an initial budget draft that is balanced to the best of their professional knowledge and ability with a list of with a supplemental list of wants. All right.
We jump ahead. We have 19, right?
All right, so we are now,
Or the 20?
yeah, we've already done number 19, Athol and Post Falls facility update as part of the director's report. So we are going on to number 20, which is response to public comment. Previous public comment, not today's, because that would kind of defeat part of the point of being more neutral.
I was just gonna,
Trustee Henley?
no, I was just gonna say that that line item there means we can comment on the public comment or respond to it from last month's, or actually the last time we had a public comment input, so. Just to put that, and that's in alliance with or compliance with our existing policy, which we never finished amending yet, but, yeah.
Correct.
I have no comments regarding public comment in the last meeting.
Yeah. Anyone else? Ms. Robinson.
I don't have any from last meeting, but and I know this is how it always was from the prior meeting, but is there a reason why we couldn't do it from today's? And I know maybe you would say it's a back and forth, but it's number 20 on the agenda, so it's really not. So is there, I just don't know if there's a valid reason for that, and I don't know if would want it changed anyway. I'm just, since we have 5 minutes, maybe we can talk about it.
I think it was, a lot of times if there's more of a distance, time and space, things have settled down. So I think that, things could get heated up if we respond to the most current one. I think it's, and I think it says that we would be responding to public comments in a future board meeting. So this is not a future board meeting from today. Trustee Robinson?
Thank you. So is this going to always be on the agenda now? If so, I will try to keep track better of if I want to respond to something.
That would be the hope.
Okay.
All right, so then without, Trustee Claus?
I did look at my notes. I just wanted to make one comment. There were several speakers that suggested that we put a floating holiday in instead of adding the day after Thanksgiving. I know I was thinking at the time, and I guess I still feel the same, is I think the library has to close on our holidays. And I don't see how we could put a floating holiday in to give, so I don't think that was a solution. I think what we did was best.
Okay, Trustee Robinson?
Well, thank you for reminding me. That is what I was going to talk about back on when we brought up the personnel policy, is the floating holiday. And I thought, wow, what a great idea that would be, because then each person could decide if they wanted to. As I was starting to say, Juneteenth isn't a big, huge holiday up here, but maybe for somebody it is. Or maybe they want their holidays more dispersed. So I know it's, but I wasn't allowed to bring that up because it wasn't about that. It was about 2025, fiscal year 25. So I would have thought that was actually a pretty good idea, because closing the library the day after the Thanksgiving holiday isn't very beneficial for the community. And a floating holiday, people can just choose when they have their extra day off.
Okay, so we got 1 minute left for response to public comments.
Wow.
Okay, all right, then we will move on to discussion of future agenda requests. I had 2 items. One, discussion on insurance, RFP. I can't even remember exactly what that was, but I know it was mentioned in an email, or RFQ. So do we have consensus on discussing that in a future meeting?
What is it?
Getting an or doing an insurance request for.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew what the RFQ was, but I couldn't remember.
Okay,
what
right,
the
yeah.
P was. So,
Proposal.
oh, request for proposal. Okay, that makes sense.
They're back and forth.
Okay, so do we have consensus on that in a
Well,
future
Is it,
meeting?
can I ask what we may, were you discussing, meaning not now, but are we asking if we're gonna discuss making a requirement, so to speak, that we shop for an insurance carrier via an RFQ or RFP? Or are we just saying we want to have one done this year via that? I want to know what the scope exactly, more or less, of this agenda proposed item is, this proposed agenda item. Because typically, right now, we don't
Yeah.
have a requirement. Maybe it's a state issue, I don't know what it is, but, so I'm just trying to understand
So like,
what the scope of the proposed agenda item is.
okay, so discussion on making an insurance RFP, does that? Who was first? Sorry.
Mine's really quick.
Okay.
Maybe it's a discussion on directing the director to implement one.
Yeah, I thought maybe that would be too specific, but yeah, that basically, Trustee Glass?
So NIC has its own policy saying they have to do RFQs for legal or for professional services and things. I don't want this to be a creation of a policy requiring us to do it. This was, in my mind, a follow-up that we came close. We finally got a quote
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, so we're actually not discussing it now.
I know,
It's supposed
but
to be a
this
quick.
this is a request, a formal request to go get these quotes.
Right. So, and we
But
can,
it's not a policy.
we can debate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a
at that time.
topic.
So yes, as a topic. So do we have consensus
Yes.
on, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we have consensus on directing the director to make an insurance RFP. All right, so my second item was that because of H710 and because I had to cut an hour and a half from this agenda, just for the items got cut that were requested to discuss. So I think we need a special meeting to cover the items that had to be cut or cut down from this agenda. and which we have already agreed to discuss, namely 1, discussion on COVID policy and director's authorization for unilateral COVID action, 2, ICRIMP decision, 3, discussion on public comment policy, 4, discussion on agenda setup, and 5, discussion on materials and withdrawal policies. So we have consensus on doing that, actually, I guess.
Would you be able to repeat all of those for the meeting?
Again, all right, so 1, discussion on COVID policy and director's authorization. 2, ICRIMP decision. 3, discussion on public comment policy. 4, discussion on agenda setup. And 5, discussion on materials and withdrawal policy. So actually, I guess this kind of, since we've already agreed to those things, should have been in the next section. Does anyone else have any discussion items?
I believe
Yes, Robinson.
I believe this is the right spot for this. It would be nice if on our, like at the bottom of the agenda, there was a list of items waiting to be on the agenda. We used to have that a long time ago.
Okay.
And I think it would be a lot clearer for chair and everybody else, but especially chair, to see what is sidelined, either put off, like it maybe was already on the agenda, but now it's kind of been shoved aside, or things that maybe another trustee wants on there, but you can't find room on the agenda for the next month or so. But being able to see what is waiting on the sidelines
Yeah, so
would be nice. Yeah, and I think it would keep everybody's brain a little more straight on what's, and then.
Okay, we're not
Yes.
discussing it now. So
No, I was gonna make an
Does anybody have
analogy, but
consensus on that?
yes.
Okay, so do we have consensus on that and for it?
Yes.
Okay, we have consensus, so.
I think it was called future agenda items.
Discuss listing the topics that are waiting on the agenda, or actually probably something a little bit more professional.
It was
than
called
that.
future agenda items, I believe.
So, and meetings, they sometimes call it a parking lot, but I don't know if that applies to
Oh,
here, but.
That
I
is
think I've
box.
heard of that before. Parking
Yeah.
lot.
That is box.
Okay, other topics? Okay,
The
so,
budget things. So if you remember, you guys have to approve the budget hearing date so that we can meet the county deadline.
right, and we're actually not to that section yet. So I don't want to do this next month. We still have too many things on our plate. It's just something like, I just wanted people who've requested it to know that they're not forgotten. In a few months, when we have some things off of our plate, I would like to discuss a media policy to counteract perceived bias against non-mainstream media. So we have
Yeah, I think
consensus on that at some point.
that was what it, that was
What?
an email we received from a constituent, I think.
Yeah, email and yeah, I've heard it. So do we have consensus on discussing that at some point in the future?
Discussing
after
what?
we-
That's it?
Hmm?
What are we, I missed what you were saying.
Oh, media
A
policy.
media policy
Somewhere down the road when
Sure.
we've got some things off our plate.
in the
Okay,
parking lot.
so
I'll
yes,
discuss anything.
yes, and, okay. So we do have consensus on that. If there are no further items to be added, then we will go to the set special and regular meeting dates. The first thing should be the budget hearing date. And it looks like I guess I'm a little confused.
Yeah, no doubt.
What, isn't this usually on the yearly dates schedule? So we don't have a budget hearing date, so this is the August one?
No,
Or,
I think I know.
Trustee Hanley?
If I interpreted the director's email or attachments properly, I think she told us we need to provide the date that we're going to have the public hearing. And we have to provide that to the county, I forget who it was there, by the end of, I think it was end of April. So we simply need to identify, I think, the date we were gonna have a public hearing. Maybe they published them all somewhere, I don't know. But that was my recollection of the attachment to an email yesterday.
Okay, I guess I missed that too. Okay, so, Director, you're talking about the budget hearing that we have usually in
Yes.
August? Okay,
Yes.
so we need to find an
So we
August date.
typically do
Here it
it
is.
around August 8th, and it's usually at 6 o'clock. So that's what I wrote. It's on the proposed schedule of meetings.
Yeah.
That I absolutely need today, but I would like the board to review their availability. I do have May 30th tentatively as the first sort of budget-focused special meeting. I would also like to encourage the board to leave the agenda free of other topics. You just mentioned a lot of topics, and we have a lot of budget work to do. So I would definitely, there's a very limited number of budget meetings that we can have. This schedule already sort of suggests that we would have a regular meeting and a budget meeting from May 30th through July 25th, and then you have your hearing. So there really is not that many dates and not much time for the board to review budget needs.
Okay, so does everyone got, do they have August 8th at 6 p.m. available?
Yes,
Any guess?
August
August
8th,
8th at 6 p.m.
it's a long time from now.
Well, we have a lot of budget
Well, that's the
meetings before
advantage of
that.
doing it now.
I guess so.
It forces us.
At what time?
6 p.m.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, that's the hearing on, okay, gotcha, where it has to be late.
Okay.
Last year it was August 10th, a Thursday at 5:30 is what I had.
Okay, so we have unanimous agreement on August 8th?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, then, the proposed special meeting, regarding budget on May 30th from 2 to 4. Does everyone have that one?
Yes.
Do we make it,
Back to me.
do we make it later, like 3 to 5?
When is this one? This is the,
30th of May.
May 30th?
okay, yeah, I put that in.
It's 3 to 5, is that,
Uh,
does that work for director?
either one works for me.
Either one works for me.
Yeah, May 30th, 3 to
Fine.
5.
Okay, so
So 3 to 5.
3 to 5 is unanimous for the May 30th, proposed meeting.
That's the initial budget.
Yes. Okay, and then, so for the items that I had discussed just on our last item, I was hoping for May 3rd. May 3rd
What about it?
for a special meeting, to discuss the items that got bumped off of today's agenda.
Thought that was,
Right, listed.
I thought that was the Idaho Commission for Libraries at a Zoom meeting in the morning at least.
In the morning,
Oh,
yeah.
well, let's just devote our whole day to the library. No, it's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no problem.
I know, but we could just
What
get it over with.
Next Friday, the 26th.
Well, since we would be discussing the materials policy, it would be best if it was after the Idaho Commission for Libraries Zoom meeting, so we know what their guidance is.
On the 3rd, I'd have to leave by 4.
So what time are you proposing?
Okay, see, where was I? You'd have to leave at 4, so, I don't want to use 4 hours, but I would like to have 4 hours available, so we could start at noon or 1.
I gotta eat lunch. I'd rather wait till 1.
What time did you?
Either 12 or 1. I was thinking 2 o'clock, but.
And this is
she-
4 hours for
Yeah, what is
for
it
the
for?
special meeting?
Is it for what?
This would be for the items that I mentioned before, which were discussion on COVID policy,
Oh, I
ICRAM
thought that
decision,
was the
discussion on
regular.
public comment policy, discussion on agenda setup, and discussion on materials and withdrawal.
I thought all those were for the next regular meeting. I didn't know that was for, which I'm not saying it's bad, but I thought that's
No,
what
I'm
we were
just-
doing.
Yeah, we had, like I said, we had about 90 minutes bumped off of today's agenda, just due to so many things. So I thought it would be good to knock some of these things out during a special meeting.
I don't want to start any later than 2. Earlier.
Uh,
I tend to think we need to, if we're gonna just have a meeting with the Idaho Commission for Libraries, and we have a relatively short timeline to have a policy implemented, maybe we should make that whole meeting strictly to do with the material selection and withdrawals and whatever that are the other items, I don't know yet. I didn't look at it. Are those other items priority items? Because we have two hot ones, I think, is the budget and delivering a policy on purchases or material selection. I think those are the two hottest things on the block. I'm not certain. Both of them are large.
Budget's the 30.
yeah, the items that I had mentioned, most of them were short. We could knock those out, in less than an hour and then have the rest of the time for the materials discussion.
I'm indifferent.
All right, so,
What time is the meeting with Idaho?
it's.
9 to 11.
9.
Was there an email on that?
I think it's on the website.
I didn't check the emails today. I'd asked the director to send it out to everybody. I don't know, because well, because I had asked the director a specific question, so she had responded to me. But I thought that that was information that everyone should
It's
have.
not 9 to.
To
It's
11.
9 to 11 on
It's
the
a Zoom meeting of some sort.
Idaho Commission for Libraries.
Well, I think we need more time. Like 2 hours or something. They're gonna tell us what we have to do.
Well, this is just to start it. I mean, we will have other meetings. I just wanted to like get down and get serious and get some work done on. We don't have to have it finished on May 3rd. It's just, I would like to make some significant progress.
What about, the second?
That's before the ICFL.
Oh,
So,
gotcha.
all right, so,
Any more questions?
yes.
Can you,
trustee
in a very abbreviated fashion, tell us which things you want to put on the agenda for the 3rd in the afternoon?
COVID policy,
Okay.
ICRAMP decision, public comment policy, agenda setup, and materials and withdrawal policies.
I would agree, everything except for the last item should be short, I hope, but
Yeah.
I'm,
So-
I'm okay. What time we propose?
Okay, so
Start at 14.
And I have to
Yeah,
leave by
leave.
4.
you can't start at 1.
So we can do 2 to 4.
If we split the difference 1:30.
Maybe I'll put it down. Either pick another day that she can stay longer than 4.
Yeah, well, I need to start the agenda on the 6th. So I mean, I guess we could meet on the 6th,
I'm
in the
okay.
morning. That would be the other option,
Yeah, afternoon.
or afternoon.
After-
It's just that we need to start working on the agenda for the regular meeting, so I need to know what,
I just soon put it off till Monday if we're doing this other meeting.
okay, and, Director, are you available on Monday?
Afternoon.
Sorry, May 6th?
Yes, I need to find a spot, but yes.
Okay, so May 6th then?
And it'll be 2 to 4.
Good for me. I don't know.
2 to 5.
Well, like I said, I'm hoping it doesn't take 4 hours. If we could work together, it would make things quicker, but I would like to have 4 hours reserved
So like
just
it's
in
good
case.
start time,
Yeah, that,
because I'd have to leave at 6 that day, so
Okay.
that's fine.
all right,
4 hours.
so,
2 to 5:30 instead of.
okay, we can go with that.
What is 2 to
2 to
5:30?
2 to 5:30 on May 6th. Okay, well then, there are no other special meetings to go us with.
So are we informing now that there is a Zoom meeting that we're encouraged to attend on the 3rd?
Yeah, so Director, could you send out the information for that to the board so that, any who are interested could attend? For
Yes.
The ICFL Zoom meeting, okay. All right, well, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, it has been moved that we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, it is unanimous. We are now adjourned.
All right.